Webinar. This is your host, Jerry Gordon, coming to you with another edition of How to Create Wealth with Life Insurance While You Are Alive. I hope everyone is having a fantastic start to their weekend. Today is going to be very exciting. If this is your second or third time returning to this presentation, welcome back again. If this is your first time, you are in for a treat. We're going to be covering a lot of ground today. Okay, now here's the thing. I start every presentation the same exact way. Before you build your house, what is the first thing you need? A blueprint. You don't buy materials. You don't do anything. You get a blueprint first, and then you get the entitlements and approvals, and then you get the contractors and buy the materials. Think about building your financial house the same exact way. You have to start with a blueprint. The very first thing I'm going to teach you all today is how you can find the money to eliminate your debt and fund your financial plan. A lot of people have these steps that they require you to follow. They have this sort of roadmap where if you travel that road, ultimately you're going to be financially free. You're going to have wealth. But a lot of times these plans miss the preliminaries. The very first thing we have to do is find the money. We got to learn how to work smarter instead of working harder so that we have that extra money in our economic system to get us to where we're trying to go. I'm going to show you how you need to view your money, how to work smarter and not work harder to have that extra money to nibble away at those financial objectives. Secondly, I'm going to teach you how you can use life insurance to create retirement savings and passive income. I'm going to teach you all about the 8 different types of life insurance policies, 2 of which are very important if we're looking at creating income. I'm going to show you those policy types and how they need to be structured to help those of you who are behind with your retirement savings get caught up. And for those of you who might not be government employees, I'm going to show you how to create your own pension from a special type of life insurance policy. Also, we're going to teach you about the tax rules that you need to be familiar with in order to create tax-free income from life insurance. I'm going to give you 3 tax rules. Don't worry about taking notes. This is going to be recorded. But the main thing is I want you all to do is to be educated so that when you leave away from today's presentation, you're going to be more confident than you've ever been before in your ability to use life insurance while you are alive to help you create tax-free income, to help you build wealth. And look, here's the deal. Right now, we are hearing all of these things about the economy. I'm going to show you how you can use life insurance to create risk-free growth. In other words, without having to invest in the stock market. And it goes beyond retirement planning. I'm going to show you all how you can create capital inside of a life insurance policy savings account. That goes back again to me teaching you about the 8 types of insurance, one of which is going to allow you to accumulate capital to do things outside of retirement before you reach retirement. Make investments in real estate, fund your children's college education or grandkids' college education, fund vacations. I want you to be able to live and enjoy life before you get to retirement. I'm going to show you how your life insurance policy can help you do just that. And then we're going to wrap up today with creating estate plans. I'm going to show you the core documents that you need within your estate plan and how to be organized with the estate plan once you created that estate plan. And then we're going to wrap up today with Q&A. Please make sure if you have any technical issues at any point as we're going through today's material, log out, log back in. I am not a tech whiz. I did not create this software. So if you're having technical issues, log out, log back in. I also believe there is a phone number an email that you can email if you're having technical issues, which will be the software support. Make sure you're paying very close attention. Don't worry about taking notes. As I said before, I will be emailing out this presentation to everyone who has attended, okay? Also, I'm going to wait until the end to answer your questions. I will not be stopping as we're going through. As you all probably know, if I stopped every 5 minutes to answer questions, we would not get through this material in the time that we've allotted, and it's already long enough. So let's go ahead and dive in. First thing I like to do is give you a little bit of information about my background. My name is Jerry Gordon. I am founder, and chief wealth strategist with the Black Wealth Company. The Black Wealth Company is a financial planning firm that specializes in comprehensive financial planning for Black families. And we use life insurance as our core financial planning tool to help Black families across this country create personal and generational wealth. I've been doing this for over a decade with my own company. I started off with JP Morgan Chase Bank when I moved to Atlanta in 2007. Worked at JP Morgan Chase Bank. I'm going to give you all this story. I learned very early on that people not only care about what you're doing, they care about why you're doing what you're doing. I started as a financial planner working at JP Morgan Chase Bank. I had a older white gentleman who was training me at the time. We were doing presentations in North Atlanta in a town called Canton, Georgia. Went up there Tuesday nights, and Thursday nights was when he did his financial planning workshop. I did Thursday night after he did Tuesday night. He told me, he said, Jerry, we're going to do these financial presentations. I'm going to do Tuesday night. You're going to do Thursday night. Here is the presentation. Here's what you need to do. Here's when you need to do it. Here's how you need to do it. I was young and wet behind the ears. I was really excited. I was really enthused. So guess what happened? 90% white crowd. I went up and stood there Thursday night, did the same exact presentation, how he told me, when he told me to do it, what he told me to do. My response was nothing short of lackluster. It was so bad, the fact that that gentleman had to stand up and say to those people, if you're not going to give this young man the same respect that you gave to me, you can leave immediately. Now, I say all that to say this. From that situation, my spirit was crushed as a young man, young Black man in this country. I was actually out there trying to do what I thought was the right thing. But the problem that I realized was that I was doing the right thing for the wrong people. Let me say that one more time. I was doing the right thing for the wrong people. If you're doing the right thing for the wrong people, you're not going to get the result. You're not going to make the impact that you could possibly make. So that is why I decided to create the Black Wealth Company. I said, why am I going to be standing in front of a 95% white crowd when they're not going to receive the information or accept the information from me because of how I look? But my own people, my own community need this information. We, as Black people in this country, are individuals who have helped build this country, but have been oppressed, suppressed economically from the very start of slavery all the way to present. And I said, let me be the person that makes an impact by changing the future trajectory of generations, by teaching my people how to build, maintain, and transfer wealth. That is my mission. That is my why. As a result of that, open shop in Atlanta, have an office, Midtown Peachtree Street. This office is about 2 blocks away from the Fox Theater. That is where you will find me. Most of my clients are in different states. You look on the screen here, I've done my in-person Black Boot Camp workshop starting in 2019. You all know the pandemic caused everything to shut down. We had to recalibrate, move everything online, make it a virtual workshop, which is exactly what we've done. I have commenced my in-person events again. Be looking out. We will be in your city. These are some of the past dates if you are interested in attending the in-person event. If you're in D.C., Chicago, Detroit, obviously Atlanta, Miami, Houston, Dallas, Los Angeles, I will be coming to your city, so please stay tuned. If you find today's information helpful at all, which I know you will, not tooting my own horn, I'm just going off what people say, you will be blessed. This will be a life-changing presentation. Make sure you share. We talk about everything else in the beauty salon and everything else in the barbershop, but we don't usually talk about the things that are most impactful and meaningful and transformative to our current and future situations. And that is what this workshop is. Now that we've gotten the preliminaries out of the way, let's dive into today's material. As I said before, you start every construction project with a blueprint, right? If you want to go build your dream home right now, you've already bought the land, assuming you've already bought the land, and you've done nothing else except buy the land. It's raw land. It's raw, undeveloped land. What do you need to do before you build a house on that land? The very first thing is you need a blueprint. You need a roadmap. You need to figure out what you're doing. You need to figure out, secondly, if you have the permission to do it. That's when your entitlements and approvals come into place. And then after that, you hire your contractors and you buy your materials and all of the other things subsequent to the preliminary things that you do, which is what? Based off of the blueprint. The financial blueprint is what we're talking about right now. I call it the financial framework. What is the financial framework? Your financial framework is what I know it called your financial order of operations. It is your financial plan. Every person on this presentation has you have your financial plan. I'm going to give it to you right now. What is that financial plan, Jared? Safety, growth, and income. Those are the three buckets within your financial plan. Now, here's the thing. Let me start off saying this. A financial plan does three things. A financial plan does three things. Remember this. A financial plan tells you what you should do, when you should do it, and how you should do it. More specifically, what you should do with your money, when you should do it with your money, and how you should do with your money. That is safety, growth, and income. Now, let's start with the what and the when. I'm going to show you the how in a second. The what and the when are on the screen. What is the first thing that you see on the screen? You see what? Top left corner, safety. Why is safety your first bucket? Why do we start with safety and not with growth and not with income? You start with safety, ladies and gentlemen, because without safety, you will not have the financial wherewithal to weather the storms of life. You need to have the financial capacity to weather the storms of life. If, for example, the roof has a hole in it, you need to fix the roof. You need to change your tire, or you end up getting very sick and you can't work for 2 or 3 months, or you get laid off. All of those things can affect your future financial security. Those things, those current financial things that you find yourself dealing with can impact your ability to retire comfortably. You may not even make it to retirement if you do not have your safety bucket. Without your safety bucket, you can't go into growth. Why is that? Because if you skip over safety and you dive into growth, what happens when you have an emergency situation? You end up having to close out that 401k, pull money out of the 401k, the IRA, the TSP, to cover your emergency situation. And what does that do? That creates a domino effect where you're always starting over when life throws something at you. That is a lot of you on this presentation right now. You past tense, had a 401k, had an IRA, had a TSP, but fill in the blank happened. And as a result of fill in the blank, I now am having to start over again. Why? Because you did not do the right thing at the right time. If you do the right thing at the wrong time, you still won't get the result that you're looking for. So that is why you start with safety. Start it the right way up front so you don't have to go back and redo it. Your safety bucket is what you need to weather the storms of life. When we're saving our 3 to 6 months, for some of you might need to be 9 months, depends on the stability of your income, depends on your family situation. 3 to 6 months reserves in your savings account is a rule of thumb. You might need 9 months, you might need 12 months, but regardless of what that number is, once we've filled up that first bucket, that safety bucket with enough money, things like having your short-term and long-term disability in place, your 3 to 6 months reserves in place, those basic things that you need just in case money is what I call it. Once you have enough just in case money, then you can move into your second phase of your financial plan, which is your growth bucket. That is where you're maximizing your 401k contributions, your TSP contributions. You're hitting that $7,000 a year maximum contribution that you can make into your traditional IRA. Everything, in other words, that we're doing in the second phase of our financial plan is designed to create more money for us. We need to create money in the second phase of our financial plan so that we can comfortably make the transition into the what? Third phase of our financial plan is, which is when we're going to start taking things like Social Security, our pension distributions. We can start having discussions about pension maximization or Social Security maximization strategies, or strategies to transfer wealth using trust to subsequent generations. All of those discussions that I just mentioned to you are third phase, third bucket conversations. You all, I hope you understand visually what I'm trying to teach you today. Safety, growth, and income are what and when you should be doing the what and when with your money. Safety is what? Number one. Growth is what? Number two. And income is what? Number three. I'm giving you the what and the when. This is how you progress through your financial plan. So if you're on here right now and you're in your 50s, most of you are, you're in your 50s and you don't have any money in your safety bucket, guess what? You need to start focusing. You need to try to figure out how you're going to find the money to fill up that first bucket. You got to get to work in filling up that first bucket. I understand you're behind, but guess what? You're going to stay behind if you skip over safety and jump into growth. You're going to stay behind because it's only going to take one life situation to wipe you out. We ain't got time to be starting back over every five years when we're already 55. You don't have time to keep starting back over. Do it in order. Do it at the right time. Now, here's the deal. I've given you the what and the when, but I haven't shown you the how. I'm going to show you the how in the next few slides. But let's think about this for a second. Safety is first, growth is second, and income is third. Now, I'm going to take a step back and say, even though I've given you the what and the when, and this is the step 1, 2, and 3, in reality, most people are not at step 1, they're at step 0. And what is step 0? Step 0 is the cash flow step. People are stuck trying to figure out, where am I going to find the money to even fund my safety bucket? I'm already barely making ends meet, especially with prices having increased as much as they have over the last few years due to inflation. You are at bucket 0. If you don't have money in your safety bucket, chances are you're stuck in phase 0. You got to try to figure out either how am I going to make the extra money to fund my financial plan, or where am I going to find, F-I-N-D, that extra money. Look on the screen here. Your money is divided, cash flow is divided into 3 quadrants: lifestyle, accumulation, and lost, L-O-S-T, money. Over the course of your lifetime, you have a bachelor's degree, you work about 30 to 40 years, you're going to make about $3 million. That's gross, not net, gross, before taxes, before the money that you lose. Here's the thing, though. I just told you the money that you lose. You lose a third of your income to taxes before it hits your bank account. That is an example of lost money. The lost money portion of your cash flow is by far the largest portion of your cash flow. The lost money portion of your cash flow is by far the largest portion or largest percentage of your cash flow. I just gave you an example with income taxes, but income taxes aren't the only form of lost money. Taxes, those $50 subscriptions that you forgot to cancel, debt insurance premiums, auto insurance premiums. Think about all of the money that's flowing through your economic system on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that you cannot or are not using in your economic system. That $50 a month subscription that you forgot to cancel last year that you have allowed to run for a whole 6 months or 12 months, that's $600 that your financial plan is not using as a result of you forgetting to cancel that subscription. That's an example of lost money. So what we want to think about is we want to think about how we can strategically identify lost money and not how we can make more money. Here's why. Here's why identifying lost money is more important than trying to make money. Because usually by making more money, you don't usually have more cash flow. Why? Because it's not about how much money is flowing into the economic system. It is the economic system in which the money is flowing into in the first place. If you're operating in a money-losing system, it don't matter that you got a job making $50,000 a year more. You still ain't going to have no damn money. Why? Because you're not managing the lost money of your economic system. So with that being said, it's better for you to focus on where you're losing money and reallocate those lost dollars into the proper bucket instead of you trying to make more money. Why is that, Jerry? Time. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time. You always make more money, but you can never make more time. I'm repeating that just so that it can resonate in your spirit. Somebody on this presentation needs to hear that. If you are 50 years old, if you're anything, say 40 years old, you know you've lived half of your life. Did you know that? If you're 45 years old, you've lived more than half of your life. If you're 50, you've lived 60 to 70% of your life. You don't have any time to waste. That's why it's better to work smarter and not work harder. Reallocating lost money, therefore, is much better than trying to make more money in a broken economic system. So how can we collectively identify this lost money? I'm going to show you where this lost money is, because think about it this way. use this example in every presentation. Let's say you make $100,000 a year, assuming that you have evenings, weekends off. Let's say you make $100,000 a year. Okay, weekends and holidays off. Do you know that that's $50 an hour? Think about that for a second. I'm following my math. $100,000 a year is $50 an hour. So think about it this way. When you go to Kroger's and you spend $100 and make $100,000 a year, what are you really spending? What are you really spending? You are actually spending TIME. When you spend $100, when you go grocery shopping and spend $100 and you make $100,000 a year, what you're really spending is 3 hours of your life. You know why that is? Because it took you 3 hours of work in order to net $100 after tax. Think about your money in terms of the time sacrifice required to create the money. Think about your money in terms of the time sacrifice required to create the money. When you start thinking about your money in terms of time, it will transform how you spend your money. You won't look at it as just a little $50 anymore. You won't look at it as just $200 anymore. You're looking at that in terms of that was 5 hours of my life I had to sacrifice somewhere working for somebody that I don't like and that don't like me, and I just let that money go out the window. Lost money, reallocating that lost money is therefore the key to working smarter and not working harder, because why? You can always make more money, but you can never make more time, which leads to procrastination. That's what I just told you. Always make more money, but you can never make more TIME. Procrastination is lost wealth for that reason, because you can't make more time. You can always make more money. Look on the screen here. I have two 22-year-olds on the screen, one on the left, one on the right, client A and client B. 22-year-old on the left side of the screen commences saving immediately at the age of 22. She's not playing around. She is trying to build wealth. Her mom and her dad attended my workshop, and she's like, let's attend this workshop with my mom and dad and see what it is that they're learning about. And so she starts saving immediately. She starts saving her $2,000 a year immediately for 6 years. And that is the $12,000 that we saved over a 6-year period. Notice we only saved for 6 years. We didn't do any saving after the age of 27. And look what that money turns into. Let me tell you this. I'm going to give you some nuggets. Let me give you a nugget. Do not ever look at the seed for what it is. Look at the seed for what it can become. Don't ever look at the seed for what it is. Look at the seed for what it can become. Furthermore, look at the seed for what it will become if it's planted on the right soil and cultivated properly. It has to be planted on the right soil and cultivated properly for it to grow into its potential. Think about your money that same exact way. Time works for you when you start early. It works against you when you start late. Look what happens as a result of us starting early, saving this $12,000 here, $1.348440. $1.4 million is what a $12,000 investment grows into as a result of us starting what? Early. Time works for you when you start early. It works against you when you start late. Now compare that to the 22-year-old on the right side of the screen who commences saving at the age of 28. So we've shifted the savings out just another 6 years. We started at 28 instead of starting at 22, but look how much more money we have to save to get to basically the same result as the individual on the left side of the screen. What did I just tell you? Time works against you when you start late. It works for you when you start early. You eliminate your options when you start late. Think about it this way. When you're in a hurry to get somewhere, you're driving, let's say you're in a hurry to get somewhere. We've all been in this situation, right? You're in a hurry to get somewhere. Let me tell you something. You all know I'm not telling you a lie, right? When you are in a hurry to get somewhere, that is when you get behind the slowest ass driver. That's when everybody that ain't got nowhere else to damn go is when you in a hurry. You already woke up late, but then when you woke up late, you get behind people that just driving in the wrong lane and they not paying attention to what they're doing. Meanwhile, you got somewhere you got to be in 15 minutes. That's what happens when you don't get up early. When you don't manage your time efficiently, you eliminate your options. You become a victim of time instead of a master of time. Let me say that one more time now. I just told you can always make more money. You can never make more time. You don't want to be a victim of time. You want to be a master of time. You are a victim of time when you don't use your time efficiently. That is what it is. It is lost wealth, lost opportunity to take $500 or $600 and do something with it to close that gap that's going to keep you suppressed and oppressed and worried about how you going to pay your light bill when they take Social Security away in 2032. And you don't want to be that person, do you? Manage your time, T-I-M-E, the thing that you can never get more of. You've already lived more than half your life. You're 50-something years old. You know that, right? You've lived 60% of your life. If you're 50 years old, 60% of your life is over. You only got 40% more to go. What you going to do with that other 40%, 65-year-old? What you going to do with 50-year-old? You ain't got no money. What you going to do with the next 40% of your life? That's all you got left. Maximize your time. Never ignore the seed for what it is. Think about it for what it can become. Procrastination is lost wealth. All right? Now, that leads to the next thing. Okay, Jerry, so I get that. I need to start early. I get that. Okay. But then what do I need to be doing? How much do I actually need? What is the game plan? What am I working towards? How much do I actually need to be saving right now to get me to the place that I need to be in retirement? Now, I can't give you that exact number because the number is not going to be the same for every person. What your retirement number is, single woman, is going to be different than a married couple, right? What your number is going to be different based on a lot of factors. Okay, some of them may be out of your control, but I'm going to give you the bullet points. What you need in retirement is always going to be based on the same 5 bullet points: your current savings, your expenses, your savings time horizon, meaning how long you have to save, your savings growth rate, investment returns, the 4th bullet point, and finally, your future income or future guaranteed income sources such as pension and Social Security. Now, here's the deal. We don't need to know all 5 of these, but if we know, let's say we know 4 out of 5 of these bullet points, guess what we can do, everybody? We can take these numbers and plug them into a calculator, and we'll know exactly what we need to be doing today to get to whatever that desired retirement result is. But here is the thing. You cannot control what you do not track. What is not measured is usually not accomplished. What is not measured is usually not accomplished. What is not tracked is usually not controlled. Now, what am I saying? What are you saying, Jay? This is what I'm saying. If you're trying to achieve a goal, you're not going to achieve that goal in all likelihood if you're not monitoring or measuring the things that need to be measured. You're trying to lose 5 to 10 pounds within the next 6 months. Not checking your weight regularly is not going to be to your benefit. It's not going to help you lose that 5 to 10 pounds that you're trying to lose in order to get into those jeans that you can no longer wear because you gained that 5 to 10 pounds a lot more quickly and you can lose it. Y'all know I'm not telling you a lie, right? So here's the deal. You have to be accountable to yourself. It's about accountability. That's the purpose of tracking, right? It's about accountability. You need to know what your bull's mark is, what that target is for you, so you can have something to keep you accountable and you can make those adjustments as quickly as possible if you find yourself veering off of the correct path. Current savings, future and current expenses, savings time horizon, savings growth rate, and future income, guaranteed income source are all of the things that we are going to use to build your financial plan for retirement. Now that we know how much you need is going to be based on these bullet points, we need to talk about the biggest elephant in the room, which is going to be, for most of you, the debt that you have, your debt. Because think about it. Okay, I've given you all this stuff so far. I've talked to you about procrastination, how you shouldn't procrastinate. I've talked to you about lost money. I've talked to you about the 3 buckets of safety, growth, and income, and I've told you already that you got to do the right thing at the right time to get to the results that you want. We've already covered that, but here is the thing. Remember I said to you before that most people are not at step 1, they're at step 0. That step 0 is I'm trying to find how much I need to try to get more money. I need more cash. And guess what? The problem is most of your excess money or your excess cash flow is tied up in your debt. It's in your debt. Yes, maybe you should cancel that Netflix or that Comcast, or maybe you should stop eating out as much and all that. I mean, we get all of that stuff, right? But your debt by far is going to consume the biggest piece of your disposable income or your discretionary income. You're just trying to get out of debt. And so if we're trying to free up more cash, the easiest way for us to free up cash, I'm talking about the low-hanging fruit. The easiest way for us to free up cash It's not to get rid of the Comcast cable or stop eating out as much, which we know you probably should. We need to try to get out of debt. We need to get this debt paid off. But here's the thing. It's not about how you need to get out of debt. It is the best way to go about doing it, because there's all of these approaches to debt elimination. It's not complicated. Don't complicate it. Do not complicate it. Oh, well, that's good debt. You know how they say, oh, there's good debt, there's bad debt. Look, I'm going to tell you something. I just don't want to owe anybody. You know why? Because if you owe somebody, that's taking money away from something else. I don't care about it being good debt or bad debt. I just don't want to be bothered with it if I don't have to be bothered with it, particularly if I'm operating in an economic system where I have a lot of lost money. You got a lot of lost money. You got to focus on your debt, because that is going to be the key for you having that extra money, or to you having that extra money to fund your financial plan. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you the best way to approach your debt if you are someone who is trying to figure out, how am I going to have more money to fund my financial plan? Again, this is all about creating or finding extra money to fund those three buckets. Let's talk about this. I'm going to give you two approaches to debt elimination. Again, this is not how you should get out of debt. This is the best way to get out of debt. Two approaches. First approach is called the wealth chaser approach. Second approach is called the wealth creator approach. So we're going to explore each of these approaches more closely. Now let's talk about the wealth chaser approach to debt elimination, which is most of you on this presentation. What the wealth chaser's economic system looks like is something like this on the screen. Wealth chasers typically start off broke, meaning they have no assets. And what happens is, when you have no asset, you have no wealth, and you go into debt, what you do is you drag yourself below the broke line. So you're actually worse than broke. You're not broke, you're sub-broke. Because what that means actually is that even if you paid all of your debt, you would still just be broke. You understand that? So in other words, for a wealth chaser, the difference between being in debt and out of debt is that being in debt, you are sub-broke. Being out of debt, your ass is still broke, because you don't have any assets on the other side of the equation. And this is what happens as a wealth chaser. You go through life thinking that you're doing the right thing. Oh, I paid off my debt. I paid off my debt. You maybe read some Dave Ramsey books, and you got really excited about getting out of debt. And you're seeing these little things, Dave Ramsey will get them, and they'll hold a little big check on the Facebook or whatever to say that they've been debt free. But let's stop for a second. Let me tell you all something. I'm gonna give you some nuggets. I need you to catch these nuggets that I'm giving you. Remember this: don't ever focus so much on the result that you forget the required journey that's necessary to create the result. Every result has a process. Every result has a process. If you're focusing on being financially free, there's a process that you need to follow in order to get to that. Never ignore the process trying to get the result, because you're going to miss something. And that something that you miss might be a small thing, but guess what? That small thing can make the difference between you wasting 10 years or you saving 10 years. So that's first bullet point. Never ignore the process for the result. And here's the deal. Never be so focused on the process that you forget the result that you're working for. What is the result of debt elimination? What's the purpose of debt elimination? Don't get so focused on getting out of debt that you forget the reason that you're getting out of debt. What are you getting out of debt for? You getting out of debt to be what? Financially free. So if we're not being smart or intelligent about how we're managing this process, you can end up paying off all of your debt. And at the end of 10 to 15 years, you don't have anything to show for it. Think about that. You look back, oh, I paid my car off. You ain't had a car note in 5 years. You already paid off Capital One. You paid off your Chase card, but somehow or another, you still are robbing Peter to pay Paul. You still don't have any money in your safety. How the hell you paid off all your debt and you still ain't got no money in your safety bucket? Please explain that to me. What is going to happen if you paid off all of your debt? You don't have any money in your safety, because what did I just tell you? Don't ever get so focused on the process that you forget the reason for what you're doing. You're getting out of debt for a reason, right? You're getting out of debt to free up cash flow so that you can fund your financial plan. When you don't do that, what ends up happening when you have a life emergency as a wealth chaser? Where are you going to get the money to pay for that life emergency if you don't have any money in your safety bucket? Where is it going to come from? It's only going to come from one or two places. Either it's going to come out of the growth bucket, which you funded prematurely. You should have did your safety bucket first. That's a whole nother thing that we've already talked about. Or worse, you're going to swipe that credit card to pay for it. Neither one of those are desired outcomes. Neither one of those are things that you should be doing. So how can we collectively break out of this cycle? This is a poverty-driven process, right? Don't get so focused on getting out of debt that you forget the reason that you're getting out of debt. What the hell are you getting out of debt for? To be financially free. That all happens as a result of what you're doing with the money that you have left over after you paid that debt off. You got to be creating assets while you paying off your debt. Think about that. Now, here's the deal. Some of you may say, oh, well, I just pay cash. I'll pay cash because you can never lose a game that you never play. You can never lose a game that you never play, right? So if I don't get in the debt in the first place, then I don't have to worry about being a wealth chaser. I don't have any debt to contend with. But the problem with that is that if you're not creating more money, being out of debt is no different than paying cash. Both of you can still be broke. You just a different kind of broke. Maybe you got in the debt and you got out of debt. Your ass is broke, but guess what? The person who paid cash for something that they could have financed, they're broke too. Why? Because you cannot pay bills with equity in your home. You can only pay bills with cash money in the bank account. That's what you got. You pay your light bill with cash. You don't pay your light bill with stocks. You don't pay your light bill with money that's in your home. You pay your light bill with cash money sitting in your bank account. You build wealth with cash money. So in order for us to break out of this cycle, it's not about paying cash or going into debt and paying the debt off. It's about what economic system am I operating in so that when I go to pay off my debt, I'm not moving backwards. That's really the struggle that a lot of people have. They're like, okay, I could pay off this debt, and then after I pay this debt off, I can then go and start investing. But you see, the problem with that is that you are losing time if you do it that way. You're prioritizing debt elimination over wealth creation. But the problem with that, again, is that you're not, look, you can always make more money, but you can never make more time. How many years is it going to take you to get out of debt? How many years is it going to take you to pay your car off? You can't afford to not be investing. You're already 50-something, so you got to figure out a way to do both at the same time. You know, the only way you can do both at the same time, get out of debt and build wealth, you got to activate compounding. Compound interest is how it works. What we need to do is we need to move into a wealth creative system. The difference between a wealth creator versus a wealth chaser is that the wealth creator has perpetual wealth creation, meaning that while they are eliminating their debt, the money is also creating additional wealth. In other words, the money is doing two things at once. That is called leverage. You're using your money to do two things at once. And if we activate this wealth creation process, the money that you're making from the money that you've invested is going to be enough to get you out of debt. In other words, you can pay your debt off without even touching your paycheck because your money is structured properly. You are operating as a wealth creator. Watch what happens when you've invested your money into a process that's creating more money. Now, the money that I'm making from the money, I can use that money to pay off my credit card debt. I can use that money to make extra mortgage payments. I can use that money to make extra credit card payments. But I am doing that from the money that my money is making, meaning my money is doing two things at once. Your money has to be doing more than one thing at a time, or you're not going to be using your time efficiently. Wealth creators have maximum time efficiency. The only way you're going to do both of them at the same time is that your money is functioning in a wealth creation system. We got to get this compounding working for us instead of time and compounding working against us. Now, I've given you the theory. I've given you the concept. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to show you a wealth creator in action. I'm going to show you how a wealth creator would approach eliminating a $250,000 30-year mortgage at a 5.25% interest rate. Now, 5.25% interest rate on a $250,000 mortgage is $1,381 per month principal and interest payment. This excludes taxes and insurance because you're going to have to pay taxes and insurance regardless if you have a mortgage or not. So we're ignoring taxes and insurance to simplify this example. $1,381 a month times 306 months totals $496,980. If you subtract that from the $250,000 principal balance, that is a total of $246,983. That is what you have paid to use somebody else's money to buy the house that you're staying in. Again, at a 5.25% interest rate, 30-year mortgage. Now, let's put our thinking caps on because I've given you all some information that we're going to be able to apply to this to make us wealth creators. Now, before today's presentation, if you had a 30-year mortgage, what you would have likely have done is you would have probably refinance. There's a lot of things you can do to pay this $250,000 mortgage off. In reality, it's not going to be a 30-year mortgage because you're going to make extra payments. You're going to probably do a rate term refinance. You may have restructured your loan. All of those are things that in reality are going to make it unlikely that you will pay a 30-year mortgage to term. But let's just assume you do decide to pay the mortgage to term, and you know that this is where you're going to live for the rest of your life. Okay, you want to pay this thing off as soon as possible because look, I'm 50 years old. I don't want to go into my retirement with a mortgage. I want this thing gone. That's the biggest monkey on your back is that $2,000, $3,000 a month mortgage. So if I'm going to free up so think about what's going to happen, what domino effect I'm going to create by paying off my mortgage. By paying off this mortgage early, I'm going to have another $1,400 a month that I can do something with. And the quicker I can free up that $1,400 a month, the more aggressively I can fund my financial plan. Now, let's put our thinking caps on. Let's put our wealth creator hats on. We know what a wealth chaser would do. You're going to get your performance bonuses from your job. You're going to get your raises, and you're going to probably add extra payments here, add extra payments there. Nothing wrong with those scenarios. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm asking you, is that the best way to do it? Because if you do it that way, what else is going to happen? Now, what I want to do now is show you an example of how we as wealth creators can get this mortgage paid off, but also create wealth. Look at the bottom of the screen. I have $250,000 of found, F-O-U-N-D money. So remember, I showed you all that big circle, and I showed you that lost money is by far the largest portion of your gross cash flow that's leaving your economic system to things like taxes and miscellaneous fees that you're paying out that do not provide you a current or future economic benefit. That lost money portion is huge. Let's say, for example, using the techniques I'm going to teach you today, which I'm going to show you in the next slide, you are able to find $250,000 of found money. Okay? So in other words, you're going to use the techniques I'm going to show you. You're going to find another $250,000. That totals about $800 a month. So if you can find another $800 a month over the next 30 years, that is going to be another $250,000 in your economic system that you would have otherwise wasted. Now, once we find this $800 a month, guess what that means? Now I have additional cash flow that I can apply towards paying down my mortgage and also use to build my investment portfolio, to build the bank that's going to create that compound interest for me during the growth phase of my financial plan so that I can have passive income later. But it's starting with us finding this $800 a month. I didn't say that you got rid of your cable bill to do it. I'm going to show you how we do that. But let's say, for example, you find another $800 a month. You're still paying your $1,381, but you're going to identify another $800 a month. Guess what is going to happen if you invest that money at the same interest rate as you're paying on the mortgage? So in other words, at the top, you are paying a 30-year mortgage at a 5.25% interest rate. At the bottom, you are investing that lost money or that found money into a process that is creating more money for you. What will that result in over the same 30-year period. Let's say you follow this process, you work smarter and not work harder. I didn't say you made another $250,000 income, but watch this. If you find that extra money and you allocate that money simultaneously into an investment process that earns the same interest as you are paying out over that 30-year period, you are not only going to be able to pay off your mortgage, you're going to end up having $700,000 extra dollars of wealth. This is money that you would have not had you done it the way a wealth chaser did it. You would have waited 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and guess what you would have lost? TIME. And what happens when you lose TIME? That means now you're not able to go back and invest that money and make that interest, to create that compound. That's 5 and 6 years of lost opportunity to grow and compound your money. But watch this. By being a wealth creator, I'm able to find, F-I-N-D, extra money without changing my lifestyle, invest that money into a process, and guess what? It grows to $1.2 million over the same 30 years that I'm paying on my mortgage. And watch this. I could take the interest that my interest has made, pay off my mortgage, and still have money left over. This is how you work smarter and not work harder. This is why I say you don't wait. You don't procrastinate. You got to be getting yourself out of debt, but you also need to be building wealth simultaneously. It's the only way to nibble away at that financial plan to get you where you need to be. Again, the difference between a wealth creator and a wealth chaser is in the wealth creator's ability to leverage time, leverage their money in such a way that their money can do two things at once so that they are not wasting their time and they're still able to get their debt paid off. Now, this right here should be one of the most powerful, enlightening pieces of today's presentation. Now, it's going to get even more exciting. Now, let's say this. You already know the concept. I've given you examples. Now, here is the main question that some of you have. Okay, Jerry, I get that. Okay, where do I find this lost money? Where is this lost money? You get the concept. I've given you the concept. Where do you need to look today? Once you finish today's presentation, where are some areas of opportunity for you to take money, reallocate money without increasing your income so that you can fund your 3 buckets: safety, growth, and income, while eliminating your debt so that you can retire comfortably even if you're starting late. It starts with the lost money. It is how we can be smarter and not work harder. So now, where do you need to look to find this lost money? Okay. Now, I will tell you all, budgeting is not on this list. Now I'm going to tell you something. You can budget, and I'm not saying budgeting is bad. In fact, I think it's phenomenal if you do it. If you do it. Number one, and number two, if you're consistent with it. The problem with a lot of things that work is that people either won't do them or they will not do them consistently enough to get the results. So I like to focus on areas that are low-hanging fruit areas that do not require you to do a lot of work, because the more work you give people to do, the less they accomplish. So I want to take that excuse away from you, and I'm going to give you the low-hanging fruit that everyone on this presentation, the 40-something or 50-something of you that are on here, every one of you can do things on this list. So let's talk about where you can find this lost money. First bullet point, automated savings applications can be a tremendous help with your first bucket, helping you save money without having to consciously think about it. The app that I personally use is called Capital. It is an automated savings application that does roundup features, and it helps you nibble away at that first bucket savings objective. You got to get your 3 to 6 months saved up, right? We need that extra money to be saved to help us with that first bucket, so that, in other words, we don't have to consciously think about it. Looking at your app and seeing that you've saved $1,000 without thinking about it, it's only going to help you. So leverage technology to help you with those savings objectives. Also, remember, I taught you all that you cannot control what you do not track. number one. And number two, what is not usually measured is usually not achieved or accomplished. That has to do with personal accountability. You need apps to help keep you accountable to your goals. Budgeting and tracking applications will do that. One that I like is called Truebill. Truebill is fantastic at identifying lost money. It will show you subscriptions that you forgot to cancel. It will show you also where you're spending money and variations in your spending, right? And that all of those are very important because they give you the ability to control your cash flow. Remember, you cannot control what you do not track. So the first step is having a system in place for tracking your cash flow. If I asked you how much you made, every single one of you can tell me down to the penny what you made last week or last month. But if I ask you what you spent last week or last month, I don't know what I spent last. Well, don't you think the expense side is just as important as the income side? Aren't your cash outflows just as important as your cash inflows? Right? Either one of them can make you broke. So don't you think you need to be looking at your outflows and give them as just as much focus as your income? Truebill is phenomenal. Make sure you download it. It is and can be a tremendous help for you. Second bullet point, do not overpay for your federal and or state income taxes. You have 3 buckets that you need to fund. You are on here with no money in your safety bucket, but then you're receiving a $5,000 tax refund from Uncle Sam. You don't even have enough money in your safety bucket to cover a flat tire. If you're driving down the freeway and somebody rams into the back of your vehicle and they do not have auto insurance and you have a deductible to pay, guess what? It's still going to impact your finances. You got to make sure that you have money in your first bucket. So I would rather you not receive a large tax refund and have that money to fund one of your 3 buckets. Or if you're already past that first phase of your financial plan, which is funding your first bucket, and you're in that second phase, that growth phase, where you're trying to invest as much as possible to get that income later, you need to be using that excess tax money in your growth bucket. In other words, what I'm getting at, there's always a bucket within your financial plan that requires additional money. By leaving or allowing the government to keep those excess taxes that you pay, you're losing the opportunity to fund one of your buckets that be lacking. And I can assure you that one of your buckets is probably lacking. So what I would need to do is request your W-4 form from your HR department. Make the adjustments to your allowances on the front end if you receive a large tax refund. By large, I mean anything over $3,000. I'd rather you have that extra $200-300. But think about it this way. If you owe Uncle Sam that $3,000, is Uncle Sam going to pay you interest? Is Uncle Sam paying you interest on your tax refund that he's giving you? Is he? No. But guess what? If you owe Uncle Sam, guess what? Are you going to be able to pay Uncle Sam after April 15th without paying interest? So Uncle Sam wants his money with interest, but he gets to keep yours and you don't get any interest. So you need to make the adjustment on the front end so Uncle Sam does not get to keep any of your excess taxes, and that money can be working for you instead of working for Uncle Sam. Third bullet point, make sure, this goes back to that wealth creator versus wealth chaser example I showed you all about focusing on your debt elimination. What's the purpose of debt elimination? I'm talking to the 40 or 50 something of you on this presentation. What is the purpose of debt elimination? Is the purpose of debt elimination so you can go out and be bragging to people that you debt free? Is that the purpose of debt elimination? Or is the purpose of debt elimination financial liberation? The purpose of debt elimination is financial liberation. Debt elimination, financial liberation. That is the purpose of debt elimination, to give you financial flexibility, to help you create the financial life that you want, that you deserve for yourself. So the purpose of debt elimination is to free up cash flow to invest elsewhere. So that excess cash flow from debt that you paid off, maybe you have not had the information that I'm giving you today and you've been doing the wrong thing because you didn't know any better. But when you know better, you do better. And now that you know the difference between being a wealth creator and a wealth chaser, you know that you need to be using that money from your debt savings in one of your 3 buckets. cash flow from debt savings that you paid off, any debt that you refinanced or consolidated. You've saved $100 a month or $200 a month on that mortgage because you did a refinance when interest rates were extremely low. What are you doing with that extra $200 a month that you just saved as a result of doing that refinance or that debt consolidation? What are you doing with that extra cash flow? Because that extra cash flow is opportunity to create more money, opportunity to fund your first bucket, opportunity to create passive income for you later. So if you don't use that debt savings, debt restructuring, debt that you paid off, you're wasting your time. An app that can help you with this is an app called Neat Tally. Neat Tally is an app you can download in either the Android store or the Apple store, and it will pull in all of your debt, and it will show you exactly the process or the steps to pay off which debt, when you should pay those debts off to save as much money as possible on those interest payments. The goal is to eliminate that excess interest that you're paying out and to keep that money for yourself so that we can be funding that plan to fund those three buckets that we have to fund. Use technology to help you. You don't have to try to figure out, okay, should I pay this credit card off over this one? Should I pay the one with the higher interest off first? Should I pay the one with the highest balance off or lowest? Like, you don't have to try to figure all that out. This software will do it for you. And all you have to do is plug and play. Right now, we have an approach that is going to basically be automated and give us a path to the goal that we're trying to reach as far as getting out of debt and funding our financial plan. Also, cash back rewards that you might be receiving from your American Express. A good one is Discover and Chase. A lot of these cards will give you cash back. Some of them unlimited cash back up to a certain percent. This may not be a large area unless you are like a business owner and you're charging large dollar expenses on your credit card. Make sure that you are leveraging those cash back rewards. I don't care if it's just $20 a month that they're giving you. It's $20 a month that you didn't have to work for. It's a free $20. And guess what? It ain't just the $20. Remember, I taught you this. Don't ever look at the seed for what it is. Look at the seed for what it can become if it's planted on the right soil and properly cultivated. It ain't just $50 a month or $20 a month. It's $20 a month times 12 months times 30 years. It's that plus whatever that creates if you invest it somewhere that it should be going. You hear what I just told you? Did I go too fast for you? I said it ain't just $20 a month. It ain't just $50 a month. It's $50 a month times 12 months. That's $600 a year times 30 years. That's $18,000 times whatever your money is going to make over that same period of time if you invest it in the proper processes. Don't you ever despise small beginnings. So I don't care if it's just $20 here from this bucket, $20 here from this bucket, $20 here. Yeah, it's 20, 20, 20, but we ain't even halfway down the list yet. This is $80 a month right here for somebody. This is $1,000 a year if you just find just $20 per month in each of these buckets. Do you all just hear what I just told you? This is $80 a month. This is $1,000 a year at $20. I just said $20. Let's keep going. Fourth bullet point. Look at your auto insurance. Increase those comprehensive deductibles to the maximum amount that they will allow you per your state and or lender. Okay? You overpay for your auto insurance at the expense of your finance plan. Make sure you're not overpaying. The way you can do that is obviously by doing comparisons between auto insurance companies. That's not going to hurt you either to do that. But another thing you can do is adjust your comprehensive deductibles. If you have an ultra low deductible, by ultra low I mean like a $250 deductible, $500 deductible, increase that deductible. By having an ultra low deductible, you are overpaying for your auto insurance. That could be another $20, $30, $40 a month. I've seen an auto insurance premium drop by 50% just by someone increasing their deductible from say $250 to $1,000 or $2,000. You'll be surprised at how much money you can save. Now, this, again, may not be a big area for a lot of you because your auto insurance might already be as low as it can go based on the years that you've been with that auto insurance company. But this can be a big area, especially if you're paying anything over $300 a month for auto insurance, which is possible if you have multiple drivers on your policy. Maybe you have some things on your driving record that might cause your premium to be elevated for a period of time. But by making those adjustments to the structure of that policy, in other words, increasing the comprehensive deductible, you can reduce your auto insurance premium. Also, look at your work benefits plan. Okay, when you do the open enrollment, now you're not going to be able to change your benefits package but once a year during open enrollment. Okay, but that once a year that they give you the opportunity to change your health plan or to make changes to your 401k allocations, what I want you to do is look at those health insurance plans. If you are at a job now, there's a couple of different plans they're going to tend to offer you. Some of you are with companies that have what's called health savings accounts. The reason why you have a health savings account is because the health insurance plan that you are likely a part of has a really high deductible. So the government allows you to save money towards your deductible or out-of-pocket expenses for your health care in that health savings account. That's a high deductible health plan. Those plans are going to be the least expensive plans available to you. So if you have the option of choosing a high deductible health plan, meaning a health plan with a health savings account, make sure you're taking full advantage of those plans in place of other alternatives that might say have lower deductibles, because you're going to be overpaying in most cases for your health insurance if you leave it the way that it is. Also, if you do not have a high deductible health plan offered at your job, usually they're going to offer you something like an HMO, PPO, POS, fee for service. All of these are different health insurance options. Make sure you're using HMO or network-based health insurance plans, because those are going to be plans that are going to be the least expensive options. Look, you got to have health insurance, but there's no reason to overpay for it. Don't overpay for it. Pay what you need to pay and do what you need to do with the rest of the money, which is fund your financial plan. Okay? Here's the other one. Unmatched retirement plan contributions. Number one, you should not be maxing out your 401k if you don't have any money in your first bucket. That's the first thing, right? Because if you're maxing out your 401k contributions with no money in your safety bucket, what is going to happen when the roof needs to get fixed? What is going to happen when you are out of work due to being laid off for 3 or 4 months? Where is that money going to come from? It's going to come out of that growth bucket. Well, guess what? Now that you take the money out your growth bucket, now what do you have in your growth bucket? So now you not only have no money in your safety bucket, you don't have any money in your growth bucket because you funded your growth bucket out of order. So what I would like for you to do, if you are matching or maximizing your 401k contributions, make sure that you turn those things off until you get enough money in your first bucket. Once you've satisfied the 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, whatever that number is for you in your safety bucket, your first bucket, then you can turn back on those 401k contributions. Then we can start doing up to the match. Now, don't do more than the match. If they're only going to match up to a certain percentage, do enough to get the match. Anything beyond that amount, I want you to invest outside of those plans. You do not want all of your money tied up into your 401k plan. Those plans are what's called tax hostile plans. You can't even get the money out of there after you put it in until you're 59 and a half. You can't touch it without taxes, fees, and penalties. So why would you want to put all of your money in an environment like that where you can be investing? Instead, you can be investing outside of those plans into something that's going to give you a benefit where you don't have to jump through hoops in order to access your money. So what we want to do is do only up to the match. Remember, that's free money. Do up to the match. Do enough to get that free money. But beyond that, we need to be doing something outside of those plans to help us build wealth outside of our 401k, 403b TSP. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that in the next few slides. Okay? Consider replacing your death insurance policy with life insurance, with a life insurance policy. Your death insurance policies are what are known as term policies. The reason I call them death insurance policies is because that is the only time that the policy pays out money, is when you pass away. That money is of no use or benefit to you with your 3 buckets. That money is dead money to you. You might as well not even have it at all, because it is not going to help you with your 3 buckets. It can help your son, your daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter, whoever you leave the money to with their 3 buckets. But why not have a policy with a savings account which allows us to tap the money in the insurance policy for our what? Safety, growth, and income. You see how that works? When we have a savings account inside of the life insurance policy, we can now plug that policy into our financial plan. You cannot use a death insurance only policy within your financial plan. You can use it, it's just not going to be as useful to you because the money can only be accessed when you transition. So we want to look at replacing those dead money death insurance policies with living benefits, cash value policies with savings accounts, again, that we can plug into our financial plan. I'm going to teach you about that in the next few slides. Also, if you have old 401k, I'll call this dead money, old 401ks from previous employers, old TSPs, IRAs with Fidelity, with Vanguard, with Empower, with Merrill Lynch, all of these monies that you have out there, maybe you've lost some money in the stock market, and you're looking at your account and you're like, oh my goodness, every day, every week, it seems like my account continues to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. Back in 2007 and 2008, some of the people who lost money during that stock market crash never made the money back. And watch this. You never make the money as fast as you lose it. You never make money as fast as you lose it or spend it. You never make money as fast as you lose it or spend it. So when you're looking at your 401k or the money that's sitting out there at these old stuff that you haven't even looked at in 5 years, do you understand how crazy and insane that sounds? You got your life savings at a company that you're no longer with, and you're trusting those people to do right by you with your money. That is not those people's responsibility to manage your retirement for you. It is your responsibility as an informed consumer to control and manage your own money. Those monies that you have out there outstanding with old jobs, that money needs to be moved into your own account. That needs to be moved into a place where you can control it, where you have the options to grow and affect your future retirement assets and income. So that's the old 401ks. I'm talking to those of you with those old 401ks, old retirement. It could be an old pension lump sum that's out there. You haven't even talked about it. You haven't even looked at it. I can't tell you how many people schedule appointments with me. They're sitting on the same exact workshop as you. And they go out and they look at their dead money. They go call on those old jobs. You might have $100,000, $150,000 out there you don't even know anything about, but you out here thinking that you don't have anything saved, but because you didn't take that extra step to go out there and ask the question, what do I have in this account? And as a result of that, a lot of times, especially as Black folks, we don't ask the questions because we don't know what questions we need to ask, which is the importance of workshops like these, giving you the information so that you know what questions you need to be asking, so that you can be confident in what you're doing. It starts with you taking control of your money right now, not later, because if you wait till you're 60 to do it, it's going to be too late then. You lost 10 years of compounding. We could have been making money, but because you didn't ask the question, you didn't get the answer. You didn't get the answer because you didn't ask the question. So those old 401ks, out-of-service 401ks, excess savings. Some of you got too much money in your safety bucket. I said you got 3 buckets, not 1 bucket. Some of you had like the only bucket that you need is your safety bucket. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but if you put all your money in safety, you're not going to have any growth. Inflation is going to eat you alive. All that money you got, the excess money you got in your safety bucket, inflation is going to eat you alive. Take that excess money and invest it in that second bucket. If you have more than your 3 to 6 months, you have more than enough money in your safety bucket, that money needs to be going into growth. This is why we say excess savings. Again, IRAs. Some of you have already moved over your money from old retirement plans with Fidelity, with Vanguard, with Power, with whoever. You've already moved it over, and it's just sitting in an IRA with Fidelity, for example, and you haven't looked at it. You haven't asked for anything because you don't really understand stocks. You don't understand mutual funds. If I ask you all right now, what do you have in your 401k portfolio? 90% of it you couldn't even tell. You wouldn't know what. You don't even know where your money is. Now that should scare the hell out of you. You don't even know what your money is in, but that is your life savings sitting there. So old IRAs, current IRAs, where you move money, you seeing those IRA accounts drop, you're losing money, you don't understand the stock market, you're afraid of the stock market. We need to be moving that money. I'm going to show you what we can do with that money to give you that security, to give you that passive income later. But you got to make these chess moves now. If you wait till 75 to do it, it's going to be too late. You're not going to have the time to get the growth that you need to create the income that you're going to ultimately need in retirement. And every single person on here is going to need income in retirement. But you got to make sure you're moving into these buckets at the right time. Also, pension lump sums. Some of you, I've already alluded to this, you might be eligible to receive some type of pension lump sum. In most cases, if you are at a job that offers you a pension, in most cases, you can begin to take money out of that pension at the age of 55. They will allow you to take a distribution from that pension at the age of 55. So we can move money out of that pension plan at 55 instead of waiting until 60. Why not just go ahead and move your money out as soon as you can so that you can invest that money into something else and get even more of a benefit than you would have gotten had you just left it there? And all too often, especially as Black folks, we don't know what we don't know. And so by the time we check the box, or maybe we check the wrong thing on that box, or we don't do anything at all. We just kind of just get so busy being busy. And then before you realize it, you may have missed a deadline. A lot of this stuff has deadlines associated. You got to make your selection within a certain period of time. Well, if you don't have the education on what these different policies and different things are that you have available, how are you going to make a decision about what you need to do with that pension lump sum by November the 15th? You're not going to know what the hell to do. You just going to probably leave it in there, and you could have made that money double, triple, quadruple. You could have had 10 times as much money for retirement had you taken that money out and put it in something else. But because you didn't know what you didn't know, because you were so busy being busy and not being productive with your financial plan, you've allowed time to get away from you. And once that time goes, it's gone. Once it goes, it's gone. So we got to make sure we're using all of these sources of debt money. Again, excess savings, old 401ks, IRAs that you have out there with Fidelity, Vanguard, or pension lump sums that are out there as well. Make sure we're using that debt money. I'm going to show you how we're going to use that debt money in today's presentation. Also, bill audit. Now, bill audit really tie into the first bullet point you see on the screen. Truebill is a budgeting and tracking application. Bill audits are important. Let me tell you why bill audits are important, because we're living in a society right now where everybody wants everything quick, fast, and in a hurry. People don't like to read anything anymore. Everybody's in a hurry and everybody's in a rush. And what happens as a result of being in a hurry, being in a rush, you miss a lot of details. You miss details when you're in a hurry and when you're in a rush. And you all know I'm not lying, right? Think about the times you've been in a hurry, you've been in a rush. So think about what that means when you paying bills and you're not actually looking at the bills that you're paying. How do you know that you're not overpaying for something? And yeah, it might just be $20, but let me tell you, like, what did I just tell you? It ain't just $20. It's what $20 times 12 months times 20 years can become if it's invested in the proper vehicle. So what you want to do is you want to look at your bills, your cell phone bills, any of those subscriptions that you need that you're paying for on a monthly basis. You'll be surprised at how much money you can save just by calling those people up and saying, I think I'm considering changing services. Call up your phone provider and let them know you're considering changing services. Guarantee you they're going to try to offer you a cheaper price. And think about it this way. You probably think, you say, well, why in the hell did you not offer me this? I've been a customer for the last 10 years, but what did I just tell you? You don't get the answer. Usually you don't get the answer unless you ask the question. So just by making that, just that one little thing, just doing a bill audit, calling up those subscription providers and look, I'm thinking about changing. I'm actually looking at my budget. I'm looking at change. You'll be surprised. Those people will come out of the woodwork with all kinds of discounts. Oh, we'll give you a free line. We'll do this and do that and the third. But it all started because you asked the question. And you asked the question because you actually took the time to look at the bill. So make sure you're examining your bills. Yes, they're on auto pay. Look at those bills. Even your taxes. You'd be surprised. There have been situations where people have paid taxes to the city, to the county. They've overpaid. They've been overcharged. The ad valorem, the assessed rate for the property may have been off, right? And people have been able to go back and dispute how the properties have been assessed and have been able to reduce their tax bill. You see it's little things like that that can make a huge difference when you're combining it with these other areas. It's not just the one area, it's everything in aggregate. When you start doing this stuff in aggregate, it can make a huge difference. But typically, if you follow this process, you go through each of these bullet points, you will tend to find about 1% of your gross annual income. So if you make $100,000 a year and you go through this process that I just showed you, you can find about $1,000 a month. Now think about what that means. That's $12,000 a year that you would have had to go out and make somewhere else. That's another $12,000 that I've given to you, that you created, that you found of lost money. Think about what that means. Every dollar that you find is a dollar that you don't have to make. Every dollar that you find is a dollar that you don't have to make somewhere else. That's why found money is better than earned money. Found money is better than earned money because you don't have to sacrifice your time to get to the same dollar. And that is why we want to look at these areas of lost money. Look, you don't even have to budget. Budgeting is the last thing on the list. But if you just go bullet point by bullet point, try to just find a small number. Try to just find $20 a month in each of these buckets. That could be another $3,000 or $4,000 a year. And I don't care what financial situation you're in on this presentation. If you're struggling to make ends meet or you already have funded your bucket, an extra $3,000 a year will still make a difference. And the extra $3,000 a year is still going to do something for you. And all you got to do is just go through these processes, make these adjustments. All we're doing is just changing where the money is going. It's not going to require you to do any extra work. It just takes you a few minutes looking at these areas, and then we're off to the races. Now that we know where to find the money, I'm going to talk to you now about what we're going to do with the found money. Okay, so we've covered a lot of base up to this point. Okay, we started off with that financial plan, which is the safety, growth, and income. I'm going to just go through this because I know some of you came on later. So we start with our blueprint. That's your blueprint that you're going to have before you start building your financial house, is your safety, growth, and income. That is your blueprint. That is your roadmap. In order to fund that blueprint, think about before you build your house, what's the first thing you got to do? You got to get entitlements and approvals from the city, right? So think about your finances the same exact way. Before you build your financial house, you need a blueprint. In order to execute that blueprint, you need money to pay for the entitlements and approvals, to pay for the blueprint itself, to pay for all of the things that you need to pay for before the house ever gets built. It all is about cash flow. So now that you have the cash flow, you can fund those three buckets without having to make extra money. Now, here's the deal. You know where that lost money is. I just showed you where that lost money is, and I told you you cannot procrastinate. That's the key. Not procrastinating, doing this stuff as early as possible so that you are not wasting your time. Now we're going to talk about how we're going to incorporate life insurance into the lost money. Now that we found this money, we want to be able to do something with this money that's going to help us with all three of our buckets. And that is where life insurance comes into play, because life insurance by itself is the only financial vehicle you have at your disposal right now that can help you with all three of your buckets. You can use your life insurance policy for your first bucket. You can use it for your second bucket, and you can also use it for your third bucket. That is why life insurance is by far the most, perhaps, important aspect of your financial plan, because it's the foundation upon which we can build everything else. The money that we have in there is safe, it is guaranteed, and it gives us a structure that we can continue to put money into week after week, year after year, to build up one or all three of those buckets. Again, because we're going to tap into a policy setup that has a savings account, We're going to be able to use that savings account for our safety, growth, and or income. So if you want to start our financial plan with life insurance, now notice a lot of people will get on Facebook and they'll say, oh, well, I don't think you should invest in life insurance. That is the dumbest thing that you can ever say. Every single one of you on here has life insurance, most likely, or you understand the importance of having life insurance. So if you know that you have life insurance, why not have a savings account? Why is it going to hurt you to have an additional benefit in that policy, additional access to money that you put into that policy? Why would you not want to have access to your own insurance policy? Why would you not? Why would you have $300,000 being up to your son and your daughter, but you struggling to make ends meet? You don't even know if you're going to be able to retire or not, but you leaving them $300,000. What sense does that make? You got to live too. You got to enjoy life too. You want to go on vacations too. You want to buy investment properties too. Yes. You love your son and daughter. Yes, you love your grandson and your granddaughter, but you got to love yourself as well. You got to be happy as well. So what we want is a policy that is going to be something that can leave money behind to our kids, our grandkids, which is great. We got bills that got to be paid when we leave this earth. But we also want to have access to a setup that we can tap to use while we are alive. And that is exactly what we're talking about. Using your life insurance while you are alive happens as a result of you using the correct type of policy. Now, for most of you, you do not have the correct policy. And if you do have the correct policy, it is not properly structured. Or if it is properly structured, you're not maximizing that policy enough, not putting enough money into that policy in order to get the benefit that I'm going to teach you about today. Now, we know that there are 8 different types of insurance strategies. Those 8 strategies are divided into 3 categories. We have the death benefit only category, which are your term policies primarily, where you're paying into that policy just for death benefit. But when you pay for term, paying for term insurance is like renting an apartment. How is it similar to renting an apartment, Jerry? It is similar because when you pay for that premium, you're paying to rent that death benefit. You do not really own that death benefit. You do not own that death benefit. The life insurance company owns that death benefit, because if you own that death benefit, you would be able to access some of that death benefit. That death benefit is owned by the life insurance company until you die. You have no ownership at all. That is why it is renting insurance. Is renting insurance okay? Yes, it is okay in certain circumstances. For example, if you get an SBA loan, all the SBA loans require that you have life insurance coverage equal to the loan amount. Those are typically going to be term policies. It makes better sense for those to be term policies. But when you're talking about retirement planning, you don't want to go into retirement with a term policy, because it is renting insurance. It's going to be a lot more expensive for you to get the same exact coverage, okay? And it's temporary. Chances are you're going to outlive the term insurance anyway. So what's going to happen is you're going to end up having to get another term insurance. You be in this perpetual cycle of buying or renting insurance. That is not going to help us with our 3 buckets. What we want to focus on are the policies that have savings accounts in them, because with those savings accounts, we have many options for how that policy can be used within our financial plan. We can use that policy for safety. We can use it for growth. We can use it for income. So depending on where you are right now in your financial planning can determine how the life insurance policy with the savings account plugs into your financial plan. Now, there are 4 types of policies with savings accounts. You have the whole life, the universal life, the variable universal life, and the equity index universal life. We're going to focus our attention on the IUL policy setup. Now, a lot of people will use the whole life in the way that I'm going to teach you today. The reason I don't tend to use whole life when we are setting up retirement plans is because the return potential is significantly less. In other words, you're going to make less money over a period of time being in a whole life policy versus being in a policy that pays you higher interest rates over a period of time. Now, again, we both of these setups have savings accounts, but we want to focus on maximizing our earnings. We want to grow our money as much as possible, especially if we're using our life insurance as a growth bucket, meaning you've already funded your safety bucket, you're past that, now you're focusing on growth. We want to maximize our growth as much as possible. Whole life policies are fixed policies. They're going to pay you the same interest rate every year typically. If it's 5%, it's going to be 5%, 5%, 5%. Sometimes they might change it to 2% or what. But typically with a whole life policy, you're going to have more consistent interest earnings. So they're going to be more consistent. So you're going to get 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. They might just pay you that 5% interest rate for the rest of your life. But here is the problem with that. If they're paying you 5% in all years, what does that mean that you're missing out on if you have a different policy? So that's where the IUL comes into play, because we can get zero interest in some years. In other years, we can get 12%, 14%, 16%. So we have a lot more variability. We have a lot more fluctuation in our interest rate when we use the IUL as opposed to the whole life. But we're going to want to maximize that IUL, because even with the fluctuations in our savings account, we're going to end up in a much better financial position long term, because we're doing this for the 20, 30 years down the line, not for the fluctuations that happen this year, next year, the year after next. We got to keep the end in mind. We got to begin with the end in mind. So if we're going to have some fluctuations, it's okay as long as we have higher interest potential. We have a larger account balance at the end of the day. Now, what we're going to talk about also towards the end of today's presentation are what is called index accounts. These accounts are savings type accounts that we're going to use for rollovers. This is for those of you who have those old 401ks, those TSPs, those IRA accounts, those accounts that you have with Fidelity and Vanguard. Maybe you're looking at the account, it's been losing money for whatever reason, or maybe it's not been making any money. You're like, oh my goodness, I know there has to be a better place for me to put this money. I'm already in my 50s. I haven't made any money. I don't have any money saved, don't have enough saved. What we can do is we can do what's called a growth index account. A growth index account has an annuity contract associated with it. What the annuity contract does with the growth index account is it protects our principal. So if you're looking at the stock market and you're noticing, hey, you're losing some money, you lost some money, you're down 20%, right? Or you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't touch my money and I'm already down 20%. If you had that money in an index account, you would have never lost anything. And whenever the stock market rebounds, guess what? You will get that rebound as well. So you have all of the upside, but none of the downside. That's how you need to be investing your money when you're in your 50s, because you don't have the time to make up for bad years. If you're in an investment account and you lose 15 or 20%, you're always going to lose it more quickly than you make it back. You might have lost it in a year, but it might take you 2 or 3 years to make it back. Well, you can't afford to be losing 2 or 3 years and you're already in your 50s. That's okay if you're in your 30s or if you're in your 20s, because presumably you have much more time for that retirement account to bounce back, but not when you're already in your 50s and in your 60s. You just don't have the time. So you have to be investing your money into an environment where you have the upside, but you don't have to ever worry about losing anything if, say, the economy tanks, if they raise interest rate and it causes a recession, or if we have a crazy president or something like that, a war breaks out. Anytime they announce a war, the stock market tanks. How can you know if there's going to be another war within the next 10 or 15 years? You don't know that. Well, guess what? If all your money's in the stock market, subject to the intermittent fluctuations, the year-by-year fluctuations that happen, you could be 60 years old, 62 years old, planning to retire. And guess what? Look at your retirement account. You're down 20%. Now, all of a sudden, you get to go back to work for another 10 years. Do you want to be in that situation? No, you don't. You never make it as fast as you lose it. So what you have to be is intelligent about where that money is. So we're going to be able to allocate that money into what's called a growth policy. The growth policy has no death benefit. So there is no death benefit with these. This is just like a CE, but with the life insurance company. This is going to give us the ability to grow our money intelligently as pre-retirees without investing in the stock market. This is going to change the way that you view investing after today. Now, remember, we have 3 buckets. So we have the growth account. We know that growth account is going to grow our money while we're working. But what we're going to do is, once we get ready to retire, guess what we're going to do? We're going to move that growth money into our income account. The good thing about these income accounts is that these income accounts will tend to offer you a bonus. So when we get ready to move our retirement account out of Fidelity, out of Vanguard, out of the TSP, out of the Merrill Lynch, out of the Empower, wherever your money is, if you're wanting to move that money in the growth, you're going to do your growth. But guess what? When it's time for you to take income, which is in your 3rd phase of your financial plan, we're going to allocate that money into an income account that can give us anywhere from a 10 to 15 to 20% bonus. So day one, the life insurance company can give us bonuses on our deposit, and we earn the interest, the compounding on the full amount. And if you pass away while this is happening, the insurance company will pay that money out as a death benefit to your specified beneficiary. This is how we're going to use these policies. So in other words, the policy or the plan that we're going to use is going to be dependent upon where we are in our financial plan. If we are in that growth phase, we're trying to get money saved up, we're behind, we want to use the policy setup to get us there, then we want to focus on using our IUL policy, which we can use for safety, growth, and income, or we can use our growth index account if we have old retirement money, current retirement money, to get that growth so that we can come into this phase comfortably. Now that we understand the 8 different types of insurance plans, what I'm going to do now is we're going to dive in, and I'm going to give you some of the things that you need to know as far as using the policies that have the savings accounts and death benefits. So we're going to talk about the first set of policies here, which are the death benefit and savings account policies, and then we're going to end with the index account. So that's what we're doing now. We're going to talk about the tax rules for using cash value life insurance. So here's the deal. We're going to be able to build wealth inside of these policies. Not only are we going to be able to build wealth in these policies, we're going to be able to access that money tax-free. Very powerful stuff. The money in your 401k is probably not tax-free unless you have a after-tax 401k or a Roth 401k. The money in those retirement accounts is usually going to be pre-tax, which means you will have to pay taxes when you take it out. However, if you have money in an insurance policy with a savings account and death benefit, you're going to be able to access that money tax-free if you follow the rules that I'm about to show you. Okay? So that first rule is known as the overfunding rule. It states that if you have a policy with a savings account, i.e. IUL, and you overfund that policy, the IRS states that any money that you put into that policy over and above the required premium can be added to the savings account. So in other words, if your premium in your policy, let's say that policy has a savings account, and the premium, the minimum premium to pay for the death benefit, let's just say it's $50. Anything that you invest in that policy over and above that $50 goes into that savings account. That is what this rule states. It allows you to build savings inside of a life insurance policy if you put enough money into the policy. That is the operative term. If you put enough into the policy, you can build the savings account using the rule 7702. So this is also known again as the overfunding rule. Okay? So first rule. Second rule is known as the tax-free rule. It basically states that if you overfund your policy, according to Rule 7702, for a sufficient period of time, build your savings, you can then access those savings in subsequent time periods tax-free using policy loans. And notice we have properly structured in bold large print. Properly structured means policy has a savings account and you're overfunding that policy. The money can come out tax free. And you can take those tax free policy loans, distributions from those policies over a period of time until you pass away. Now, here's the question. Let's say you've overfunded your policy to build your savings account. Going back again to the first IRS rule. You overfunded that policy sufficiently enough to build the savings account, and you've begun to access that policy savings that you've accumulated from that savings account tax-free as a result of overfunding it using Rule 72E. Guess what happens? You've taken distributions from that policy 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you pass away. If you do not use all of the money in that savings account, what they will do is pay out the savings that is remaining in that policy and the death benefit tax-free. So in other words, if you don't end up using all of the money in your insurance policy, you can actually set that policy up to pay an income to your beneficiaries. While even after you pass away, your son, your daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter, whoever can also receive an income stream from that policy. After you have transitioned, you can set it up to where they receive a lump sum, or you can have them receive a combination of a lump sum and a distribution over a period of several years. But the idea here is that none of the money that we have in this policy is lost. The life insurance company does not keep any of this money. It is paid out to whomever you have as beneficiaries. Now, here's the deal. You probably should notice that is different from a term policy. Why? Because if you pay for a term policy for 20, 25 years, there is nothing to get out of it. There's nothing to get out of it because there's no savings. You just basically gave the insurance company money that they've made money off of, because they already know you're going to outlive it or you're going to cancel it before the term is over. So they know that ultimately it's going to be to their benefit to give you an inexpensive term policy, because chances of you actually cashing in on that policy are slim. That's why they sell term insurance. But with these policies, you have ownership in your savings account. So it is to your benefit to maximize your savings component, because the life insurance company doesn't make any money off of your savings as much as you do, but they make all of the money off of those term policies, again, because they do not have any savings account. So by having that savings, you see, we can plug this policy into our financial plan, our safety, growth, and income, and be able to use it and also leave a legacy that's tax-free to our beneficiaries. Now, what I want to do, as I've been doing throughout today, is show you all a visual of how this works, okay? Because I know a lot of you might be visuals. You want to see how this works. So let me show you how this works. I know some of you are asking some questions. I promise you I will answer your questions at the end, but I want you to get this concept. On the screen, I have what's called a mortality curve. Mortality curve is a visualization of how the cost of insurance increases over time. The cost of insurance is basically the y-axis, and the x-axis is the age of the insurance, hypothetical insured. Now, you see this blue line that's increasing down here. I'm going to use my stencil to draw here so you all can see. You see how this blue line is increasing ever so slightly over a period of time. It's not a drastic increase from year to year, but it is a subtle increase. But look what happens as we get out here into our 60s and our 70s. The cost of insurance skyrockets. Now, remember, I told you all that this is, say, a term insurance example. Let's say, for example, you're paying the minimum premium, okay? And let's say, for example, you have the IUL policy with the savings account and death benefit, and you're wanting to maximize your funding of that policy, okay? So let's say, for example, again, the blue line represents the minimum cost of insurance, or you can call it a term cost of insurance. So let's put some real numbers to this, and we're going to apply the IRS rules. So let's say you have $100 a month as the minimum premium. That is covering this blue space down here. But you're wanting to overfund that policy because you're wanting to build the savings account per Rule 7702. You want to take advantage of Rule 7702 that allows you to use your savings account in your permanent life insurance policy as an investment. only if you overfund it. If you don't overfund it, there's nothing in the savings account to use. That's why I say you can even have the correct policy, but if you're not maximizing according to the tax rule, you're not going to have it. That's why a lot of people they give life insurance a bad rap. They give it a bad rap because they shit ain't set up properly. You can't call everything. See, this is what people do. People operate out of a place of ignorance. And they love to be ignorant because to learn something requires them to move out of their comfort zone. So what a lot of people will do is they say they're skeptical of everything, but the problem is you're not even educated on anything. So how are you going to be skeptical of something you don't even know what the hell you're doing? You haven't even been educated. So the very first thing some people do, it's a scam, it's a scam. No, everything is not a scam just because you're ignorant. Just because you don't know stuff, there's a lot of things in the world that you don't know about that are not scams. Just because you don't know about it, that might mean you just haven't been educated. You haven't done the work to go out and research. All of this information is out there. I've given you the tax rules. You ain't got to take my word for it. Research it yourself. Overfunding your life insurance can work for you and help you build your retirement savings if you overfund it properly according to the Rule 7702. So using this example, the difference between the 100 and 400 is that surplus amount that goes into the savings account that we can build over time. And if we overfund this properly now, like over the next, say, 10, 15 years, you're already 50, we can build a sizable savings in that savings account, and we can overfund that policy and even max fund that policy, which is where we can put in the maximum amount allowable for the IRS rule. Overfunding and max funding are two different things. You can overfund your policy and still not be putting the maximum into that policy. All policies with savings accounts have minimums and maximums. This is just showing you a max funding, but you don't have to max fund it. You can do an overfund. This is overfund, right? Because 400 is still greater than 100. So you're still going to build savings, right? But guess how much more savings you'll build if you did 800 a month? That's the max fund. Your max fund might be 1,000 a month, 2,000 a month. That's going to be different based on the policy setup, your age, the state you're in. But the point that I'm trying to drive home here is that this works if you work it. If you overfund it, follow the rules, you're going to have that savings built up, and you can plug that savings into your financial plan. Now that we know the structure of the policy, we understand that savings account is there. It's going to be useful to us in our financial plan. We can use that with our first, second, and or third bucket. Now we need to talk about how you access that money in that savings account after you have funded that policy or overfunded that policy for a period of time. You're going to access that savings, everyone, the same exact way that you're going to access money from your 401k while you're working. How many of you have taken loans from your 401k? Right? That's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it if you want to stay private. Well, let's say you've taken money out from your 401k while you were working, right? Let's say you're working. If you need money from your 401k, you're going to usually take it out as a loan. Well, guess what? You're going to access your life insurance policy the same exact way. You're going to access that savings the same way. You're going to access savings inside of your 401k if you want to access that money before you retire. So let's say, for example, this is your savings that you created in the policy as a result of overfunding that policy for, say, 10 or 15 years, and you're 50 years old. Once you have accumulated a sizable enough savings in that policy, you're going to then be able to access that using the policy loan feature. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow from our own policy. So we're using our life insurance policy, in other words, like a bank. You probably may have heard of the term infinite banking. This is exactly what an infinite banking is. It is using the savings account within your life insurance policy that you've overfunded for a period of years through the policy loan. You're going to use the policy loan to take that savings out. And watch, this gets really powerful because guess what you can do? You can take money out of your policy as a loan, watch this, and use the money that you've taken out of the policy to make more money. Watch this. So imagine if you had a policy that had doubled or tripled your money over 10, 15 years. Imagine that. And watch this. You go in there and take $50,000 out and you make an investment into something. And that $50,000 turns into $100,000. Watch what you can do. You can take the money that you made off of the money that you took out of your policy, and you can use that to repay the policy loan. And that way, now you're not only building and growing your policy, for generational legacy and wealth creation purposes, for the tax-free income, for the retirement income. All of that comes out of your policy. You got all those benefits. But guess what? You might have used that money in the policy along the way to buy an investment property, to buy something else that creates more money. So you're basically able to use money to do two things at once by using your life insurance policy as a bank. And you can do that because you don't have the restrictions on your life insurance like you do, say, with your 401k. This policy setup has what's called a non-structured interest-only loan. Non-structured just means that if you do not repay the loan while you are living, the life insurance company will essentially subtract your outstanding loan from your death benefit. So if you have a policy that's worth $300,000 and you've taken a loan, y'all forgive my messy handwriting, of $200,000, $100,000, that means that the $200,000 would be what's left to pay out to your beneficiaries when you pass away. But guess what you've done with that $100,000? You could have used that for retirement funding. You could have used that money to make investments in property. You could have used that money to start a business. You could have done a lot of things while you were living with that savings account to create passive income, to create generational wealth. But the point is that you were able to do that because that policy had a savings account. And because that savings account had some tax benefits, I can take that money out tax-free, create more money. This is how you can leverage your policy. We have that death benefit, but when we properly structure that policy, we overfund it. We have growth that we're going to have in that savings account, and we have the ability, again, to leave money behind for our beneficiaries, all of which will be tax-free later. So this is how you can use your life insurance while you are alive. And again, it's not just limited to retirement plans, okay? If you wanted to use, a lot of families to use life insurance, especially when their kid is first born. If you got like a 5-year-old or something like that, a lot of families will use life insurance for college planning. Because think about it this way. When you make over a certain amount of money, or you are, like say you're sending your kid to school, let me tell you how life insurance can help you. Let's say you make over a certain amount of money, you have a little bit of money saved for retirement. Again, I'm talking about ways that the money can be used. I'm using college funding in this example. And you overfund the policy. Guess what happens when you fill out the FAFSA? You all know you fill out the FAFSA, right, to send your kid to school, and that determines if they get student loans and get the Pell Grant, all these different things that are available to them when they go to school. Well, if you make over a certain amount of money, you have a certain amount in your 401k, that is going to disqualify your son or daughter for receiving certain student aid. You make over a certain amount, your kid may not receive any student aid at all. Everything could be loans. They may not get any grants or things of that nature that are income-based if you make over a certain amount. Well, guess what? If your monies are inside of an insurance policy, those monies are not counted against you for student financial aid purposes. So a lot of families will shelter some of their assets inside of the life insurance so that their kid can qualify for more student aid, because life insurance is not counted as an asset for purposes of federal student aid. That is a lot, not as common with my clients, but again, if you're trying to set your kids up where they don't have to go and borrow for school or borrow much for school, life insurance can help with that. Again, primarily, we're going to be using this for retirement purposes. Most of my clients are in their 50s. They have little saved for retirement, or they have nothing saved for retirement. So this is going to be our primary focus, is using this for retirement. But we have all of these different things we can use it for. We can build a savings in the policy, tap that savings on like the 401k. You know you can't touch 401k till you're 60, 59 and a half. But your life insurance you can tap after the first year of setting up that policy. You can use that money for business purposes. Imagine that extra mortgage payment that you're trying to make. Remember, I talked to you about having your money do two things at once. That extra mortgage payment that you can make to get that mortgage paid off before you retire, that can come out of your life insurance policy. Think about how many different applications there are to use that money that we built inside of that policy. And we're still protecting our family. We still are leaving money behind for our beneficiaries. I want to show you a real world example of a client that took $234,000 $234,000 from a life insurance policy while she was living. Think about that. This is $234,000 that would have had to come out of your growth bucket if you had a health situation and you did not have short-term or long-term disability. Think about that. Somebody on here has been in a situation where you had to go out on disability for a short period of time or a little bit of time. Maybe you had a medical emergency or something happened within your family or whatever, and it set you back, and you've had to take money from your growth bucket time and time and time again to help your kids, to help your family, to cover things that you did not expect to happen. All because, number one, you did the right thing, but you did it out of order. Had you funded your life insurance policy 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that could have been the money that you used to take care of those things that basically you're taking care of using your growth bucket or swiping your credit card for. You all see how one thing creates another problem, all because you did that first step incorrectly. So what we want to do is we want to establish our policy, properly funded, overfunded, or misfunded, to build that savings up. And guess what? We're not neglecting our growth and income, because we can use the policy for growth and income as well. So we can use it for growth, income, and safety. That way we're not wasting our time. We're using our time as efficiently as possible. So now what I want to do is give you all some real world examples. These are real numbers, so you all can see how this would work. Now, this is a 45-year-old female for this example. Most of my clients are between the ages of 50 and 60. I do have clients in their 40s, and I got clients older than that. But most of my clients are in their 50s to 60. So this is, again, an example that is with a person that is a little bit younger than my typical client. But I don't want you to focus on the age. I want you to focus on the concept. Using this example, 45-year-old female funds a policy. We are overfunding our policy for a total of 20 years, and we are investing $120,000 over this 20-year period. Now, this 45-year-old female could have funded her policy in 5 years if she needed to. She didn't have to take the full 20 years, but maybe she wants to focus on some other areas in her financial plan. She may want to take this 20 years to pay up her policy based on some of the other things that she might need to be taken care of. But if she was in the position to fund this policy in 5 years, she would fund it in 5 years. And guess what happens? This is our savings account that we see growing over this 20-year period. Now, if we funded this policy, overfunded this policy, look what's happened. $6,000 goes in. Our savings account is $4,800. We're building that thing up. And look what happens if we just did this every single year for 20 years. We would end up having $187,000 accumulated in our savings account of the policy at the end of that 20-year period. This is our piggy bank. This is the thing that we're trying to get to. Now, if we could get there in 5 years, great. If we can get there in 2 years, great. If we can have this done with one lump sum, great. But if we need to take the 20 years, it will still work for us if we have some other things that we need to take care of. But here is the deal. The $187,000 that we see on the bottom right corner here is $187,000 that you have access to today. That is a $356,000 policy with $187,000 of that $356 cash money. Now, how many of you on here have a Primerica policy that's $200,000, $300,000, $400,000? How many of you can access any of that money? Could you call up Primerica right now, your $300,000 Primerica policy? Can you call them up and say, I need $100,000? Can you do that? No, you can't. Why? Because there's no savings account. You're renting insurance. You're not building any equity into that policy. But watch this. With this one, I am. With the same $356,000, watch this. I have access to $187,000. I have access to half of my policy as cash money that I can use within my what? Safety, growth, and income. Now, let me keep going. So we built this savings up. Now, we can do a lot of different things if we want. We could take all this money out and we can ride off into the sunset, right? We'd have $187,000 against $120,000 investment. We haven't lost, right? We got $70,000 more in there than we put in there. We put in 20, we got 190 in there. We're good. We haven't lost anything. In fact, we're ahead $70,000. But this is just the beginning of the race. We haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. We funded this policy for 20 years to get it built up. We overfunded it to get the 187,000 built up. But watch what happens. Let's say, for example, we're doing this for retirement purposes, and we fund this policy, overfund this policy for 20 years. We don't touch any of the money. What happens if we started taking money out of the policy as soon as, say, the age of 60, let's call it 65, you started taking money out of the policy every single year? Do you know how much money you can take out of the policy every single year? I think everybody can see, unless your screen is blurry or you're too far away from the screen. You see the numbers here? That's $16,000 per year. Now, let me ask you this question. Would you invest $6,000 a year into something to take out $16,000 a year? I'm going to ask you that again. I might be going too fast for you. Would you invest $6,000 a year to get $16,000 a year? Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are overfunding this policy for 20 years at $6,000 a year, but we can take out $16,000 a year. And watch this. We can do that until we reach the ripe old age of 100 years old. You see this 100 years old at the bottom? And this is the total that we can take out. It's all of these numbers added together. So you've invested $120,000, but you can take out $564,000. That's almost 5 times what you put in. Let me ask you one more time. Would you invest money into something that paid you 5 times what you put in it? You better damn sure say you absolutely would. If I told you that I could put your money into something that gives you out 5 times what you put into it, your question shouldn't be how much money I need to put in it. You should be asking, how much more money do I need to be putting into it? You should be putting as much money into that thing as you possibly can, especially if you are behind, especially if you have nothing saved. This is what's going to help you close that gap. Now, is this going to completely eliminate your gap? Probably not, but it might. If you start early enough, it might. If you put enough in it, it might. All of that is based on you and not based on the policy itself. So again, it works if you work it. Now, what I want to do now is show you another example from someone who is using the policy, but they're doing it at a higher level. This is a 50-year-old that is overfunding her policy, overfunding the policy from 50 to the age of 62. That is a total of 13 years that we're overfunding this policy. So we put in $3,000 a month, and look what happens. We get a $468,000 accumulated savings balance. This is what we put in per year, $36,000, and this is the sum of all of these numbers above. So we're doing $3,000 a month for a total of 13 years to get $468,000 saved into this policy. But watch this. We've invested $468. Our savings account balance is $536 by the time we finish funding the policy. But watch this. That is just the beginning. That's just the beginning. That's just the early interest that you get. Most of your interest is going to come in the later years. That's why I say to clients that unless you're willing to be in an insurance policy for at least 10 years, the strategy will not work for you. We need to be prepared to fund this policy for at least 10 years in order to get that real snowball. And yes, you're going to have more in there. Look, we put 468 against 536. That's still more than what we put in there, but it's not significantly more than what we put in there. This is where the benefit happens, is when we start taking it out in retirement and allowing that compound interest to really start working for us. This is what we're working for. What I'm showing you on the screen right here is the $80,000 per year that we're now able to take out of this policy as an annual income from the ages of 70 to 89 years old. So we only fund it for 13 years, but watch this. We're able to take out a total of $1,600,000. But what did we invest, everybody? I'm going to do round numbers. $1.6 million is what we can take out, and we put in $500,000. That is 3 times your investment. So, in other words, for every dollar I put into this policy, I'm going to be able to take out $3. Watch that now. Now, that right there should make somebody on here excited, because now you know you have a way to fund your retirement even if you're starting from zero. Now, look at this. It works if you work it. This person is invested $3,000 a month. Maybe your number is $1,000 a month. Maybe your number is $500 a month. I don't know what that number is for you, but you know what your number is for retirement. You know what you need in retirement, or you know what you basically got to pay. You know the bills that you're going to have to pay. So you may not know the exact number that you need. Maybe you don't need this for 1.6 million, but you need $1 million. You might need you might need $2 million. So all of that is going to determine how we fund our policy. If we're like, hey, I just need another $200,000-$300,000, then this might be too aggressive for you. Maybe you don't need to do $3,000 a month, but you might. Again, the policy is flexible. It allows you to customize your funding, to customize your savings based on the objective that you're trying to reach, okay? And then here's a final example I want to show you again about overfunding the policy. We can also use these policies as wealth creation vehicles, as legacy perpetuating vehicles. Now, in this example, I like to show you all different examples at different levels, because I know a lot of people are at different financial situations. I have people that come to my workshops who are multimillionaires, and I have people who are trying to figure out how to pay their debts, and everyone in between. So let me show you how this works. Even if we're doing it with larger numbers, $300,000 a year is $2.1 million that we would save over a 7-year period. Now, this example, everybody, is from a retired professional athlete that attended my workshop. He was awarded a structured settlement for the CTE. You all remember that class action lawsuit that was going on with the retired professional athletes. This gentleman's here in Atlanta. He was on this webinar. He was like, Jerry, I got a structured settlement, $25,000 a month. I need to know what to do with this money. I don't really need this money, but I want to do something productive with it. I want to create a legacy for my daughter. So I said to him, I said, look, all you need to do is give me 7 years. Take that money, invest it into this policy for 7 years, which is why you see the $300,000 a year. That's the $25K a month times 12 months. That's $300,000 a year. And what we're going to do is we're only going to fund it for 7 years, and we're going to set it and forget it. I always say set it and forget it like a pot roast. How you know you set it and forget it? Look down here at the bottom, everybody. See all these zeros right here? That means we're not putting any more money in beyond the 7 years that we funded it, because we got that savings account built up to a level that we know if we let that thing ride, allow that compound interest to do the rest of the work for us, we are able to create wealth in that policy. Now, watch this. If we allow this process to take hold, okay, and we didn't put any more money in beyond that 7 years, look at this, $2.1 million against a $14.5 million growth. So we have $16.6 million that we have in this policy of savings against a $17 million death benefit. So we have access to the majority of this policy's value while we are living. Imagine having a $300,000 Primerica, having a $300,000 life insurance policy, and having all of that money available to you as cash. Imagine that. Now, I want you to just listen to what I just asked you now. Imagine having your current life insurance policy, but instead of them just being death insurance where you can't touch any of that money, imagine if you could access that $300,000 right now. Imagine how much further ahead some of you would be right now if you had that policy set up 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Instead of you just going after the cheapest thing, you would have went after the most effective thing. The most effective thing to help you with your 3 buckets, to build up your safety, growth, and income, to give you another bucket of money. Now you don't have to be worried about, oh my God, I'm 50 years old, I got $300,000 of death insurance, but I have nothing else saved for retirement. We don't have to allow that to be the case. All we have to do is have the correct policy set up, overfund that policy, following the IRS rules that I taught you. That way we're able to build that savings, okay? Now, I want to show you there are many banks that use this strategy as well. Not only should you be using this strategy, businesses use this strategy as well. Look at all of the banks that are using life insurance. And I said cash value life insurance, not term insurance. If your bank is using life insurance at this level, don't you think you as a consumer need to be using life insurance as well? And these numbers, by the way, are in the billions. Because if you take 20 million times 1,000, that's a billion. So this is $20 billion that Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, PNC, New York Mellon, BB&T. I'm not going to call out all these banks, but do you not understand how significant life insurance is and can be for you if you are properly funding it and it is properly structured? It is not uncommon to have tens of millions of dollars. You can have hundreds of thousands. It all depends on how aggressively you're funding your policy and your intended use of the policy, okay? And I also want to show you all some of the businesses that you might have heard of. Did you all know that J.C. Penney, Walt Disney, and McDonald's were all funded from savings accounts in their owners' life insurance policies? All of these businesses started from the savings accounts of their owners' life insurance policies. And as a community, as Black people in this country, we have not been maximizing our use of life insurance. We've had a one-dimensional view of life insurance and never really thought about the potential application of life insurance in context of other financial things that we want to do. Start a business, buy real estate, or even fund our retirement. The applications are very broad. It all, again, depends on what bucket we're trying to fund. If we're trying to do all of our buckets, the main thing is life insurance, a properly structured policy, is going to be one of the easiest and most effective ways to help you fund your financial plan on the right foundation, okay? Now, we've completed our conversation about the life insurance policies with the savings accounts and death benefits. What I'm going to do now is quickly pivot to index accounts. Now, these accounts are very important for those of you who have old retirement funds. I want to make sure you understand this is a different strategy. Okay, with your index account, you do pre-tax, okay, or after-tax, okay, investments into these policies, okay? These policies do not have a death benefit. The death benefit is taken care of by the IUL or the whole life plan. These policies are strictly for growth of income. A policy that we're going to use is going to be dependent on what objective we're trying to accomplish. Again, these index accounts are for those of you who have retirement money. This is going to be good for your 401k, 403b, TSP. The last policy set up with the death benefit and savings account, you can only fund those with after-tax dollars. So we can't use our retirement money to fund a death benefit policy without paying taxes and fees. But we can use our retirement money, either pre-tax or after-tax, to fund a index account, and that index account that can be either for growth or for income. So let's talk about how these setups work and how you can plug in to these index accounts to help you with your growth and or savings objectives, okay? So again, this is about that old retirement money. If you're 60 and above right now with current retirement savings, you're looking at your 401k, 403b, whatever, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm afraid to even look at my account today because it seems like every time you look at it, it's lower, it's lower, it's lower, it's lower. And you don't know exactly what to do. You don't know anything about what to invest in. You don't know anything about stocks or mutual funds or ETF. All you know is that it's in there and that you're just going to kind of wait on it to come back. But guess what? You don't have to let that money sit there. You don't have to be a victim to the environment. You can move that money into a different setup that allows you to get that growth, but also protect your money from ever declining, from you ever losing any money. So again, we have two types of accounts that we're going to use. We're going to use a growth account, again, primarily for those of you who are currently in the growth phase with current retirement money. And in other words, current 401k money, IRA money, TSP, all of that money, okay, you got sitting out there. We want to make sure we're growing that money intelligently. You 50 years old, you don't have the time to wait on the stock market to come back again. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can reinvest that money. You can transfer that money into a growth account that's going to have principal protection, uninterrupted compounding, and that is going to be something that's going to help us fund our income account later. Okay, because the purpose of growth is to build that piggy bank as much as possible so that when we get ready to retire, we can transfer or convert that growth account into an income account. And then that account becomes a basis of us supplementing our Social Security and or pension, or completely replacing those sources altogether if we do not have Social Security and or pension. So in other words, this income account is going to be a fantastic way for you to create your own pension from your current retirement savings. And a lot of people don't know that you can actually create your own pension. And watch this, everybody. If you are receiving a pension, did you know that a pension is nothing but an insurance policy? That is all a pension is. If you receive a valid pension, that is an insurance company. Essentially, it is a insurance company contract that your employer has funded on your behalf. Well, guess what? You don't have to go through your employer to get a pension. You can create your own pension by going directly to the life insurance company instead of waiting to see if they're going to offer it or saying, oh, my goodness, I'm not a government employee, I can't get a pension. That's not true. You can create your own pension using an income account. So I'm going to show you again. We got to make sure we're using the correct policy, and we got to make sure we're doing this early enough for it to work. The thing about these income accounts, they're not going to work as well for you if you are waiting to the last minute to do it. So let's kind of work through this. Again, these index accounts are very important because they help us manage stock market risk. We have to manage our recovery time in the stock market. Like I said before, you never make it as fast as you lose it. You never make money as fast as you lose it or spend it. It might take you a year to grow your retirement by $50,000, but it might take you 2 or 3 years to make $50,000. That is what I'm talking about, the recovery time. You just do not have the time to wait around while the stock market figures out what it's going to do. So again, when you lose money, it's the time element that you're going to have to think about, and you don't have extra time when you are in your 50s. So let's talk about these index accounts and how they work. Now, to illustrate how the index account works and how it helps you safely grow your retirement, I'm going to show you this red line. This is what's known as the stock market index line. So this red line essentially is what the average retirement account would have done over a 10-year period between 1998 and 2010. Everyone on here is old enough to have been alive between 1998 and 2010. This red line is showing you what your retirement account balance would have done over that 12-year period. Again, we're just going to start from 98 and we're going to go to 2010. Now, look what happens here in the period between 1998 and 2000. The same thing we see right here. Look, the stock market went up. Here's the thing. The stock market goes up, and it can go out. It can increase quite significantly in a lot of cases, especially when the economy is expanding, interest rates are low. All of that stuff can create an asset bubble and cause the stock market to increase in value. So you will notice that when things are going well in the economy, when inflation is low, when interest rates are low, when taxes are low, you're going to see that the stock market will have a positive reaction to that. But here is the thing about gravity. Gravity teaches us, the laws of gravity say what goes up must come down. Everything has to land at some point. Nothing can stay in the air forever. So look what happened right here starting in 2000. What happened in 2000, everyone? We had the stock market bubble burst. That was that tech bubble that happened. You all remember when AOL was really big during that time. AOL merged with Time Warner. There was all these mergers going on. You know, all of the Amazons of the world were just really starting to come out. Apple was really starting to take off at this time. But what happened was the mortgage crisis hit. And all of these mortgages that people were getting, these no income, no asset loans, these stated income, stated asset loans, people stopped being able to pay it when the interest rates went up. So now what happened during these first 2 years, all of this was erased within a 2 to 3 years. So all of that money that you made, it was wiped out over a 2 year period from here to here. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, you as a retiree have to get out of this cycle, because if you are 30, right, you got 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to wait on the stock market to come back. But if you are already in your 50s and let's say you are 50 when this happened, you were 50 in 2002, look how many years it took you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You mean to tell me you at 50, from 50 to 55, that's how long it took you to basically get back to where you were before you lost money? Guess what? You could have had that money in something else, and you could have been making money. You could have been making money instead of waiting on money. Let me say that one more time. You could have been making money instead of waiting on your money, because you have your money all in the stock market, and you're not taking advantage of some of these policies that allows you to get out of this cycle of always waiting on your money to come back when you don't really have the time to do that. Now, if you look at the end result here, if you had followed this process from beginning to end, you would have only made $8,000 over a 12-year period. 100 to 108, that's only $8,000. So you mean to tell me that I would have only made $8,000 over a 12-year period? How many of you on here have 12 years to wait to make money? How many of you got 12 years? Most of you on here are already in your 50s. You don't have 12 years. So if this happens, okay, right here, right, and you already in your 50s, or let's say it happened right here where you were already 50 in 1998. You were 50 in 1998, right here when it happened. Well, over this same period of time, you basically didn't make any money at all. You can't afford to be losing 12 years. That's why it's called the lost decade, because you lost all that opportunity to make money. Now, let's bring into the discussion these index accounts and how these policies are going to help us combat this issue. So what the index accounts do, they give us upside potential, but downside protection. Now, let me overlay the blue line on top of the red line. Now, we know the red line is the stock market index line. So this is showing you the stock market index line right below it. But above it, we've plotted the index account line to show you the steadiness of the growth of the index account. Remember, I told you, you had all your money in the stock market, where if you had put it in one of these policies, look at this, you would have had consistent growth. Maybe not as quickly as the stock market, but watch this. If you had the money in the index account as opposed to the stock market account, you would have had more money in your retirement account, and you would have had what? Downside protection. You would have had zero risk. This is growing your retirement money without risk. I am not saying that the stock market is a bad thing. I actually teach stock market investing. Okay, I have a stock market investing course, but you have to be properly allocated based on your age. Your allocation as a 55 or 60-year-old is not going to be the same as it was when you were in your 30s, because your portfolio has to move with you. Your portfolio has to change with you as you get older. And because you do not have the time that you had when you were 20 years younger, you have to figure out a way to grow your money intelligently without the risk, having the upside potential without the downside risk. That is exactly what these index accounts would do for us. Now, I'm going to lay some real numbers on the screen here so you all can see how this works using real numbers. $100,000 invested in this account, okay, turns into $200,000 over a 10-year period. And this is essentially a zero risk growth that we have. This is a 3-year interest account. That's why you see Goldman Sachs 3-year point to point. But let me show you another example here. Interest rates are bound to increase. Rent interest rates are increasing. Look at this. The initial example here, we have $200,000. And look what happens with this amount. We invest this $200,000 into this, and look, $336,000 is what this $200,000 investment becomes after 5 years. Imagine investing your $200,000 in something right now that will grow that money to $300,000 in 5 years. And watch this. What happens to it if we let it sit for 10 years? This is $558,000. You basically tripled your money. And watch this. It's risk free. We never have to worry about the effects of a stock market crash. We never have to worry about what's going on in the economy. All we do is we do exactly what we do with a pot roast when we want it to come out tasting real good and very tender. We set it and we forget it. We don't have to make any other contributions to this account. We do the rollover, we set it and forget it. This becomes a powerful way to grow your money without risk, okay? And watch this. You can leave this money in this account. Did you know that investing $200,000 into this account, do you know you can turn $200,000 into $7.8 million? Do you all hear what I just told you? $200,000 can turn into over $7 million in this account. Think about that for a second. This is a game changer for you if you have money saving. You know that you don't have nearly enough to be retired comfortably. Take that money, invest it into a growth policy, get that guaranteed protection on your principal. Your interest is protected. And guess what? That's not even the fun part. We can create a generational legacy. If we don't end up using all of the money in this account, we can allow that money to sit and it can turn into 5, 6, 7, 8. This is how you can use your retirement money to create a generational legacy. And if we can do a trust, we can set up a trust. We can put that money in a trust. Now, all of a sudden, we have an estate planning vehicle that can transfer that money to subsequent generations. This is how you create generational wealth. This is how you create risk-free generational wealth. We're using these insurance policies. We're using these growth accounts. We're using these overfunded life insurance policies with the savings account and death benefits, with the tax benefits to get us to that point where we can retire comfortably and also leave something behind to help set up the next generation. Okay? Now, you all remember we have the income account after the growth account. That's why we say growth index account. After we've grown that money for a certain number of years, then we're going to move into the second account setup, which is the income account. So the reason we make this move in phases is because we want to get that growth as high as possible while we're working. While we are saving still, we want to grow that money as much as possible, because once you get into income distribution, it's going to be too late to try to get growth then. You're not going to be able to get any growth then, because now it's time for you to retire. Now it's time for you to live. You're not trying to work until you're 80, right? You want to be able to work if you want to work, but you don't want to have to work. The goal here, therefore, is to position your money, to make your money move into the correct bucket based on where you are within your financial plan. So while we're working, we'll do a nice growth strategy for at least 5 to 10 years, and then we'll move that money into an index income account that has long-term care protection. You don't have long-term care with your 401k, TSP, 457, 401a. All of that is extra stuff you got to pay for. Well, watch this. By having an income account, we can add long-term care. And watch this. We also have an inflation increasing rider that we can add. So now, when you start drawing off of your insurance policy in retirement, your income account in retirement, guess what? You can have your income increase each year for inflation. Every single year, imagine having a $20,000 income from your policy that increases to $22,000 the next year, $24,000 the year after that, $30,000, and all the way by the time you reach 70 or 80, your income could be double or triple what it was when you started. Why? Because we can build that into your policy. You cannot build that into your 401k. You can't build that into your IRA. In order to do that with that money, you got to move it into something else, right? Otherwise, you're going to have to get a long-term care policy, or you're going to have that attached to your IUL, which we will have it to your IUL, but that is not going to be enough if you end up in a nursing home that costs $3,000 a month to pay for. You got to have that money available. We hope that never happens, but it ain't about if it's going to happen. We want to have it. If the meteorologist says to you it's going to rain, or if they say it might rain, bring an umbrella. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So we want to make sure that we have all of our bases covered, because guess what? In retirement, this is why long-term care is so important. Your biggest expense besides your housing expense is going to be health care. It's going to be that diabetes medication. It's going to be you going back and forth to the doctors and paying for those co-insurances and those co-pays for your specialist visits and your primary care visits and all of these little things that just will add up over the course of the year, because Medicare is not going to pay for everything. They only pay for a certain percentage. You still have to pay out of pocket. So even though you might have Medicare when you hit a certain age, Medicare will not be enough, depending on your situation, to cover everything. You still need to set yourself up right now for that, so that if you are in a situation where that diabetes gets worse or that high blood pressure gets worse or whatever the case may be, you are able to be comfortable and not lose sleep at night worrying about how you paying for this, that, or the third is going to impact your ability to pay your light bill later. That is all insurance-based. We can only get those guarantees by using insurance. You can't get it by having all your money. Look, great. If you want money in the stock market, great. But we have to make sure we have the proper allocation. And life insurance has an allocation in everyone's portfolio, especially as they get older. It's the only place that you have guarantees on your money, and you need guarantees as you get older. Now, let's combine the growth account and the income account. Now, using the growth and the income as examples. Remember, I started off by showing you the growth. Now, remember, this is what we're going to do with that old 401k money, or that 457, 403b, whatever that old money is that you got out there. Or if you're already 60, you're working, you got some money already saved, you want to protect that money because you're afraid that the market might crash, or you're afraid that the economy may, blow up, or whatever the case may be. You're on pins and needles every single day looking at your account. Well, guess what? You don't have to leave your money in that environment. You can move your money today if you're 60 and above, or if it's an old account, do what? Do the growth strategy for 5 years and watch it. At the end of the 5 years, we can then move it into the phase 2. That's the last phase that we're going to go in, which is what? Our income phase. It's time for us to start taking income after we have done the growth strategy for at least 5 to 7 years. And watch this, by moving $500,000, into the growth account, we grow that $500,000 into $856,000 in a 5-year period. And watch this, we can receive a lifetime income of $36,000 a year. And when I say lifetime income, ladies and gentlemen, I mean the life insurance company will pay this money to you every single year until you die, even if your account goes to zero. Even if you spend all of this $800,000, guess what? They will still send that check to you every single month. This right here is how you can have a guaranteed income. You can have guaranteed income. You need guaranteed income. You need to know what your retirement income is going to be. And right now, before today, you didn't have any idea how you can have a guarantee on your income. But guess what? Using your insurance policies correctly at the right time can give you a guaranteed income. And that will be in addition to your Social Security, in addition to your pension, in addition to any other income that you might be receiving from your rental property. This is in addition to your IUL that we funded. Remember, we already overfunded that. That's good to go. This is that other money that we got saved up. We want to do something with that money as well, because that money's already been saved. So we want to protect that money while we're still working, so that money can be guaranteed and can get guaranteed interest. We can get guaranteed income while we are resaving before we get to retirement. This is how we want to make these chess moves. We want to make these chess moves between our safety, growth, and income buckets, and we need to make sure we're doing those moves at the proper time. This is how you could potentially have more money in retirement than you actually are making right now. Because guess what? You hopefully are not even going to have the same bills that you have right now, so you shouldn't need as much money. Your mortgage should be paid off. You'll probably be in a lower tax bracket, blah, 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 blah. But we also know that Social Security is on rocky ground. They've been saying Social Security might go away between 2030 and 2034. That's a big range. Well, let's call it 2030. 2030 is only 7 years away. Well, I don't know how many years. It's not that long, right? It's very close. 7, 8 years away. We don't have that much time before we get to that crossroad where Social Security is not going to be what we take it to be today. It's not either going to be paying out or it's going to be paying out less. Why would you want to wait on that to happen? You could be moving your money right now into different accounts that could give you a guaranteed income. That way, regardless of what happens with Social Security or not, you know at least you have a certain amount of money that you can bank on. That is what we're doing when we're using these policies. We're giving you certainty without the risk. Okay? Now, we're almost finished with today's presentation. What I'm going to do is just briefly get through this. We're going to talk about threats to your wealth. Number one, we got to make sure that we are positioning ourselves for inflation. Inflation is real. It is happening. It will continue to happen. It is not new. Look on the screen. Everyone on here is old enough to have remembered in 1992, 93, 94, 95, 96. You used to be able to buy food stamps. They used to have a food stamp, actual food stamp book back in the day. You used to be able to buy food stamps 2 for $1, $100 worth of food stamps for $50. And guess what that $100 worth of food stamps will get you? Right on the left side of the screen, you have a shopping cart overflowing with groceries. Right? You could probably feed a family for 3 weeks off of $100 back in the day. But what will $100 get you in, let's say, 2018? Look at today, for example. You went to the grocery store lately and spent $100, and you've actually had to look. And now I know I can't be the only one who has done this. You went to the grocery store, looked at what you like. I know good and damn well I just didn't spend $100, and you don't have nothing but some chicken. You might have some cooking oil. You might have some fruit, some vegetables, and it's not even expensive stuff. $100. Bag of Doritos was $2.50. Now a bag of Doritos is $3.50, and that's the sale price. The real price is $6. Back in the day, you used to be a big bag of Doritos. You could get a big bag for $2, $1.99. Now it's $6 a bag for the ranch and the cheddar cow. Do you think that process is going to stop happening because you broke? Inflation don't care about you being broke. Inflation don't care about the fact that you waiting on your money to come back in the stock market. Inflation is going to continue to happen. You have to position yourself, especially as a black person in this country, because whatever affects everybody else affects us worse. Let me say that again. If you are black, if you are a black person, if you are African American, or you're on this presentation, whatever affects everybody else affects us worse. So we have to definitely be on our A game when it comes to planning for the future. And one of those big things is going to be inflation. Make sure that we are positioning ourselves for inflation. And also just life in general. Remember, I told you, this goes back to that first bucket. If you neglect funding your first bucket, you don't have anything to help you weather the storms of life. You need money to weather the storms of life. There's a lot of things that are going to happen in your life before you get to retirement. Some of you are dealing with things right now, but let me tell you this thing also. I'm going to get on my soapbox, but I need you all to internalize this. If you don't get anything else from what I've taught you today, I need you to internalize what I'm about to tell you right now. Life is about managing competing priorities. Life is about managing Life is all about managing competing priorities and managing the consequences of those decisions that you've made with your life. That is what life is about. And why do I say that? Why are you saying that, Jerry? I'm saying that for this reason. I have a lot of people will schedule consultations with me. We create their financial plan. We show them what they can invest to get to the result that they're trying to get to. And they have their first phone call with me, or they come into my office. They have their first in-person appointment with me. And I have clients in 24 states. So most of my clients are outside of Atlanta. So virtual appointments. They do their 2 phone calls with me. And guess what happens? They drop the ball. And why do they drop the ball? because, oh my goodness, my husband died, or oh my goodness, fill in the blank. There's an excuse that they give for why they're not being diligent with the financial plan that they know they need to be executing. Let me tell you something. You should not ever stop planning just because life happens. Guess what? I'm sorry that your mother passed away. I'm sorry that your husband is sick right now. But guess what? You got to keep living. You got to keep living. You got to keep moving forward. You got stuff that you got to be doing. You can't stop moving forward just because life throws an unexpected event at you. Because if you are always stopping your forward progress as a result of life happening to you, you will never get anywhere. I'm going to tell you something. You will never get to your destination if you throw a rock, if you try to chase every dog that barks. You will never get where you're trying to go if you chase every dog that barks. You'll never get where you're going if you're trying to swat every gnat that lands on you. Sometimes you just got to move away. Sometimes you just got to keep moving. Don't allow yourself to be so overwhelmed by the uncertainties and the things that happen in life that you just don't plan, because guess what? Not planning is not going to help you. Yeah, your husband passed away. I understand that you and your best friend were close and you can't think clearly right now and you want to talk to me later. But let me tell you something. That should make you even more diligent. The fact that you see death around you, that should make you even more diligent. You should be stopping and doing an internal evaluation of your own life. When you have people around you dying and getting sick, that should make you want to look at your insurance even more. Your mortality is staring you right in your face every single day. Why in the hell you gonna tell me you gonna wait until your mind is right? Hell, your mind ain't gonna never be damn right. It's gonna always be a reason for you not doing something that you don't want to do. If you want to be financially secure, you gotta want to be financially secure, and you gotta do that damn thing. You gotta do it. I'm sorry, but there's never gonna be a convenient time to make all the decisions that you need to make. It's always gonna be something, but you gotta make it. You have to be determined within yourself that I am not going to be a victim of circumstance. I am not going to be a victim of mismanaging my time. As a result of mismanaging my time, now I am 60, 65, 70. I have nothing saved because I kept making excuses for why I couldn't do what I needed to do. Get rid of those excuses. People are going to die. You're going to get sick. Somebody around you is going to get sick. Things are going to happen. But you got to make sure that you are prepared. That is what financial planning does. It gives you a plan. It gives you peace of mind to weather the uncertainties of life. That is also the significance of making sure you're maximizing your life insurance policy, making sure you're using them to the optimal ability, to their optimal use, to their optimal ability to help you successfully build your financial plan. Okay? Now, we're done with the life insurance piece. I'm going to briefly go through estate planning, and then I'm going to take some of your questions. We are making really good time today, but please bear with me. Please bear with me. Thank you all for staying on. Estate planning, we got to finish with estate planning, okay, because we can do all of these things, but if we do not have an estate plan, what is going to happen when you set up these accounts? You bought rental property, you've done all of these, you made very intelligent decisions with your money, but what ends up happening is because you do not have an estate plan in place, what's going to happen when you pass away and you leave all this money to your son or daughter and you do not have the correct documents in place? A lot of times in our community as Black folks, a lot of wealth has been siphoned away from us because of lack of estate planning, not having things in place. When we're leaving properties, when we're leaving accounts to our kids, we're not doing it the correct way. And I can give you countless examples. Aretha Franklin, Prince, the gentleman, Michael, what's the guy's name that played in, what's the name? I can't think of the name of the movie. But the gentleman passed away. He had stomach cancer. You all know the name of them. I think it's Black Panther. The guy was in Black Panther, left like $2 or $3 million. Half of that money ended up being eaten up by taxes and probate. He did not have a estate plan. So what is an estate plan and how can we be organized with it? Your estate plan is consistent of 5 core documents. You have the healthcare proxy, the durable power of attorney, the revocable living trust, the will, the nomination of guardianship, Let's talk through these and the significance of each of these documents. Again, these are to be considered the core estate planning documents. Everyone on here needs these documents. The healthcare process, let's start with that one, is a document that gives another person the legal authority to make your health care decisions for you if you become incapacitated. A good example is John Singleton, the gentleman that wrote and directed Menace to Society. I believe that was amongst many other movies. John Singleton, about 4 or 5 years ago, had a stroke or heart attack, I believe, went into a coma, never came out of the coma. What is the document that is going to be used by your beneficiaries to determine whether or not you want the plug to be pulled? Who is going to be the person that tells the doctor that you have an allergic reaction to certain medication? All of that is going to be summed up in the healthcare proxy. Make sure you have your healthcare proxy. Durable power of attorney, second document, it gives another person the legal authority to make your business decisions for you. So this is going to cover everything else outside of your health. You may or may not be incapacitated. You also might end up being that power of attorney for an older relative, or maybe you have a special needs relative, special needs kid, whatever the case may be. The durable power of attorney is what enables another person to take up action on your behalf if you're unwilling or unable to do that on your own. Now, you, again, might be that person in your family who is to be the power of attorney for another relative. But the point is, make sure you have this document in place. You don't want to leave these things to chance. And that's what ends up happening a lot of times. These major things are left to chance. And when something happens, we're running around like a chicken with our head cut off, trying to figure out what we can do, what we can't do, what are the fees, how long are we going to have to wait. All of that can be avoided by simply having your estate plan in place. So again, make sure you do that. Revocable living trust is a legal document created to hold, manage, and own assets during your life, incapacity, or at death. Really simply put, a revocable living trust allows your beneficiaries to circumvent the probate process. By having that in place, your beneficiaries will not have to go through the probate process. The revocable living trust is going to be primarily what we use for what I call major assets, like property, investment accounts, things of that sort, business ownership, stock, major assets like that. We're going to want to make sure we're using a trust in conjunction with a will. A will by itself is not going to be enough. If you only have a will and you do not have a revocable living trust, you are not properly set up. You want to make sure you have both a will and a trust. A will is a legal document that expresses your final wishes, and basically it's primarily for minor things. Like, for example, if you have shoes or jewelry or purses or things that have sentimental value to you that you want a specific person to have, that is what your will is for. It is for those minor things. Again, major things, we're going to save that for the trust. Minor things are primarily going to be used. We're going to be using a will to transfer those things, okay? The nomination of guardianship is the last one. This is for those of you who take care of minor children. If you have minor children of your own, or you're taking care of minor children, maybe family member passed away, maybe you're taking care of your grandkids, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure you have a nomination of guardianship. What are the chances of your 10-year-old grandson outliving you if you're already in your 60s and you take care of him? What's the chances of that? Chances are your 10-year-old grandson is going to outlive you. So you want to make sure that if you are caring for a minor child and you are older, 50 and above, even if you're younger, still, you can still predecease your kid. Make sure if you have minor kids, make sure you have a nomination of guardianship. You do not want to leave these things to chance. And that's usually what happens, especially in our community, if these things are left to chance and we are ending up in situations that are not the most favorable or desirable situations. Again, all we got to do is get these documents, get them notarized, and put them in a safe place. And that goes to the last slide here. make sure you are organized. I get it. Yes, have the documents. Durable power of attorney, healthcare proxy, revocable living trust, a will. Have those documents. But make sure you're organized. Make sure you have both a digital copy and a hard copy. Digital copy should be stored on either a jump drive or it can be stored on iCloud. I recommend iCloud, Google Drive, or something like Dropbox. Any of those cloud-based storage systems that are out there, make sure you're using those to keep all of your documents in one place, right? Make sure you do that. Again, the physical copy, if you want to keep that copy somewhere in your home, in your safe, or if you have a safety deposit box at your bank that you want to use, all of those are fine. But make sure whichever method you're using to keep up with your physical copy, that your beneficiaries know where that document is. You want to make this as simple as possible. That's why you want to keep it in a cloud-based storage, primarily because what if your son is in Texas and your daughter is in Maryland and you live in Georgia? Well, you know, they're in different locations. They're both your beneficiaries, but you all are not in the same location. Everyone should be able to access all of those documents at the same time to make whatever decisions need to be made. That only happens when everybody has the same access. That's why I say keep it in a cloud-based storage. Make sure your son, your daughter's grandson, whoever, they know where that thing is. Make sure they have the password. All of that. Same goes for the physical copy. Make sure they know, hey, son, something happens to me. You go to the bank and get them this. This is my estate plan. And it should have all of your core documents that I just mentioned. And it should also have all of your assets. You should have all of your account statements in there. All of your tax documents in there. If you're paying property taxes on property in different states, all of that stuff needs to be centralized so that when something happens, all your beneficiaries have to do is go to one file, click on one folder, and everything is right there. It saves so much time. It saves so much confusion. It just helps make things flow so much more easily. When it's time for your beneficiaries to call up the insurance company, submit your death certificate to claim that life insurance money, everything can be done A, B, C, D, E, F, G without any confusion, without any stress. That is how you put an estate plan together. Again, you got your core documents, and we got what we need to do with those documents to keep ourselves organized and to keep down confusion. I am done for today. I would like to thank you all so very, very much for giving me your time. As I taught you all today, you can always make more money, but you can never make more time. But watch this. What I gave you today in this 2 hours and 47 minutes is probably worth more than 10, 15, 20, 120, 500, 600, 700,000 dollars. This 2 hours and 48 minutes that you spent with me is probably going to be the best 2 hours and 48 minutes that you're going to spend on any webinar. I guarantee you that. And some of you are already saying that right now. I've never heard this information put together in the way that this person has put it together. I know that because I have been doing this for over 10 years. I've been helping Black families for over a decade put these plans together. I've seen these plans work. Now, the question is, how can I work this, Jerry? How can I do this, Jerry? I know you're all waiting on me to answer that question. I'm going to answer that question. We're going to talk about investment amounts and eligibility requirements. Now, I'm going to give you the investment amounts and eligibility requirements, and then I'm going to take your questions, okay? So let's talk about what you need to bring to the table. If you're wanting to use insurance, the insurance strategy, to help you with your savings, to help you create that overfunded savings account, to help you create that income for retirement, overfunding the policy or max funding the policy, having that tax-free income, having access to that money for emergency purposes, all of those things. If we're using our IUL, we want to overfund that IUL, the recommended investment that you want to be making in these policies for them to work for you is between $50,000 and $100,000. Now, consider that to be the minimum. If you can put in at least $50,000 to $100,000, these plans will work for you. Now, that is a wide range. That works out to between $300 a month and $1,000 a month. Obviously, it depends on your age. If you are over the age of, I would say, 50, if you're 50 plus years of age, you need to be doing At least I would say between 500 and 700 a month. If you are 60 and above, then you definitely need to be doing $1,000 a month, or you need to be looking at coming in with lump sums to help you reduce the amount of time that it's going to take for you to fund the policy. Because the thing about it is, when you are already 50, you got, say, 15 years to fund your policy. But if you're 60, you don't have that same amount of time. So you got to be more aggressive to build that savings account up. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be aggressive if you're 50. If you can come in with a lump sum to help accelerate your savings in that savings account, do it, right? That's going to help you out. That's going to reduce the amount of time that we have to be committed to this plan to get to where we're trying to go. So again, 50 to 100,000 is lifetime investment. That is not, it doesn't have to be one lump sum. It's over, say, 10, 15 years, however long you want to fund your policy for. For most of you in your 50s, you're going to be doing it for 12 to 15 years. So 12 to 15 years might be $400, $500, $600, $700 a month that you're investing to get that savings account built up. Here's the thing. In order to qualify for the savings account with the death benefit, you have to have the death benefit as well. And in order to get the death benefit, somebody will have to take a physical, because it is still life insurance. So you can't really have the savings account without having to do a physical, because you have to be approved for the full policy. Okay, now here's the thing. If you are someone who has some underlying health conditions, you have, and here's the deal. Diabetes is okay. High blood pressure is okay. Even if you're a little bit overweight, all of those things are okay. But let's say, for example, you are one of those rare individuals. You have some major health things that you maybe are dealing with right now. Maybe it doesn't make as much sense for us to use you. Guess what? You can use your son. You can use your daughter. The purpose primarily is for that savings account. That's the primary thing, is we're doing this for the savings. But to get to the savings, we have to get approved for the policy. And if we cannot get approved, we can use someone else as the insured, and we can own that policy, and everything else still applies. We still have the savings account. We still have the tax-free income. All of those things will still apply as long as we are the owner on that policy or those policies, okay? So again, we're overfunding 50 to 100K, minimum investment, 300 to 1,000. These are rules of thumb. If you are, let's say, for example, we're talking to a 20-year-old. I do have some 20 and 30-year-olds that attend this workshop. Maybe they can get a policy for $200 a month, right? If you're talking about a teenager, maybe you can do a policy for $100 a month, right? But these numbers won't work if you're 60. That's not going to overfund your policy if you're already 60. You need to be doing $1,000 a month. You need to be doing $10,000 a year, $12,000 a year, $50,000. You need to be more aggressive, because you don't have the time that a 20-year-old would have. Okay, so again, it's not like it's a set number for the investment. The investment is all going to be based on your age and when you are planning to start using the money. Okay, so again, 300 to 1,000 a month. You can fund your plan. It's 5 years, 7 years, 15 years. Anyone who can pass a physical can pass the physical, and you can be the owner and still have that policy set up. Secondly, the index account plans that I spoke about, you all remember I was talking about the 401k, what we're going to do with those old 401ks. You already in your 50s. You can't take the same amount of risk that a 30-year-old can, because you don't have the time. Especially if you're 60, you don't have the time. So you're looking at your 401k, 403b, your TSP, your IRA, your Roth IRA. You lost money, and you're like, oh my goodness, how long is it going to take? Well, it's always going to take longer to make it than it did for you to lose it. Well, the problem is you're already behind. So you're going to have to lose 2, 3, 4, 5 years to make back. And guess what? We can cut all of that out by simply investing that money as soon as we possibly can into a growth policy that has a principal protection feature. Because of the annuity contract, we have principal protection on our money, and we're able to have upside potential, downside protection. So we never have to worry about going backwards with our retirement portfolio. This is great for those of you who are already 60. You got some money saved up, and you are really nervous seeing your money fluctuate. You're really nervous seeing all of your money in stocks with no guarantee that it's going to be there at all when it's time for you to use it. This is what the growth account does. It gives us protection on our money. So now we can plan for retirement with confidence. Yes, you can still do stocks. Yes, you can do bonds. Yes, you can do all those things. But you need to have a portion of your money that is guaranteed. Because when you get to retirement, you can only pay your bills with guaranteed money. You can't pay your bills with sort of kind of money. You can't pay your bills with money that maybe sort of kind of might be there. You can only pay your bills with guaranteed money. That's the only way you're going to pay that mortgage and that light bill at 67. You got to have guaranteed money. So we got to be moving our money into guaranteed investments, things that are going to grow, but also things that are going to protect our money from market downturns. Okay. Now, once we've executed our growth plan, we can then move that money into an income plan. Now, the minimum investment for the index accounts is about $20,000. Now, that's the minimum. Most of my clients do between, say, $50,000 and $300,000 because we're primarily going to be using retirement money to fund these plans. So, again, anyone who has an old 401k from a prior employer, those of you who have more than your 3 to 6 months reserves, right, that extra money that you got in savings, I already told you, you need to have your savings safety bucket funded. But you don't want to have all of your money in safety. You want to be too aggressive with safety, because if you're too aggressive with safety, well, you're losing out on growth. And if you lose out on growth, what does that mean for your income later? You see how one domino affects another domino, and it all started because you had too much in your safety bucket. So any excess money above and beyond our 3 to 6 months reserves, we want to make sure we're allocating that money into growth so that we have growth. Also, if you are currently working and you are 60 and above, a lot of you are still working in your 60s, you can absolutely use your current retirement money. It does not have to be an old retirement plan if you are already 60. The IRS allows you to transfer your money into these accounts if you are at least 59 and a half. So if you're working right now and you're already 60, meaning you're already in the retirement age bracket, you don't have to leave all of your retirement in that stock market account, that ETF or that mutual fund. You can move that money out doing a rollover without paying any taxes, and that money can still be invested into the growth or into the income account. We do that growth while you're working, and then as soon as you retire, we move it into income. Now we have an additional paycheck every month that we can use to pay our bills. Okay, so again, anyone with an old retirement plan, current IRA accounts, Fidelity, Vanguard, Empower, CDs that you have that have matured cash above and beyond your safety bucket requirement can be moved into the growth account. And we're going to do that for at least 5 years. And after we've had that 5 years of growth, we're going to reevaluate that. And then we're going to move it into the income bucket after that. Okay. So again, I'm just showing you how we would use these plans. Again, index account, minimum 20K, either pre-tax or after-tax dollars can be used to fund the index account plan. Also, finally, the estate planning portion. I spoke to you about estate planning. Okay, if you do not have an estate plan, you have two options to get an estate plan. You can do it yourself, and there's a resource I have right at the bottom of the screen. It's called trustandwill.com. You can go to trustandwill.com, and it has all of those documents that I described to you. The healthcare process, all of that stuff is there. You can pull those documents right off the software, off the website. It's like maybe $100, $200 for each document, but you can do this stuff yourself. Now, if you are someone like me, where you prefer to just basically pay an attorney to do it, to know that it's done correctly, right? You're short on time. You don't have the time or the energy to do it. Guess what? Get an attorney to do it. It's going to cost you maybe $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get an attorney to do it. But the thing about that is that if you have an attorney that's licensed in all 50 states who specializes in estate planning, it really alleviates you having to do anything, right? And because this is it's not like you have to do an estate plan every year. You do this thing one time and that's it. And all you're doing after you've set it up is you're just making adjustments to the plan. If maybe you fell out with somebody, for example, maybe they're not going to be your beneficiary anymore. It's simple things like that. Or maybe somebody passed away that was one of your beneficiaries. They're no longer here. So little minor things like that, life event things that are happening in your life that will change your estate will also be things that will require you to modify your estate plan. Okay, and that's where working with a financial planner like myself comes into play, because each year what we have to do is we do what's called an annual financial review. We look at the accounts that we set up, and we look at what you've made, we look at your estate plan, and any changes that need to be made, we make those changes along the way. You don't want to be riding down the road with a flat tire and not realize you have a flat tire until you got to your destination. Because by the time you get to the destination, you could have messed up your hubcap, you could have messed up your rotors, you could have messed up a whole bunch of stuff, right? By you not catching that problem early. So that's how you want to approach your financial plan as well, is we want to make sure that when we create these plans, that we're making adjustments to these plans along the way so that when we get to our final destination, we have the result that we're looking for. I hope everybody understands that. So that is what we got for today. Again, I've given you the requirements for the life insurance with the savings account and death benefit. We talked about the index account plans, which is what we're going to do with that retirement money or any excess money beyond your 3 to 6 months in your safety bucket. And then obviously the estate plan, which we know you can do it yourself, trustandwill.com, or you can pay an attorney to do that for anywhere from a couple of $100 to a couple of $1,000. Now we are done for today. I'd like to thank you all so very, very much for attending today's presentation. I have so much fun doing this presentation, okay? And you all make me so excited. I get so, like, when I'm going through and I'm giving you all this information, it's like the first time I gave this information. I get so excited when I talk to you all after the workshop. You're like, oh my goodness, Jerry, I've never learned as much as I've learned. I guarantee you, the 30 or so of you that are still on here right now, I guarantee you, you never learned as much in the time that you spent with me in a presentation. I guarantee it. Guarantee you haven't learned as much as you have about money, about investing, about compound interest, being a wealth creator versus a wealth chaser, about procrastination, about working smarter and not working harder by identifying that lost money. Don't get me started now. I already went through it. You all know it. Apply it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the floor for some questions from you. I know you all have a ton of questions. We're going to take maybe about 15 or 20 minutes to answer those questions. Before we dive into the questions, I want to give you all the opportunity to schedule a consultation with me. First of all, consultations are free. So if you're interested in setting up one or more of the plans that I have described today, there are several ways that you can schedule some time on my. Okay. First thing you can do, you can choose any one of these. You don't have to do all of them. Just do one of them. Choose how you want to schedule your appointment. First thing is, if you want to text me or call me. Now, this is a live presentation, so don't call me right now because I'm on here right now. This is live. This is not pre-recorded. Okay. You can text me, Jerry. I would text me your name and the day and time that you would like an appointment. And I or my assistant will respond and let you know if that day or time is available, and we will add you to the calendar for the specified day or time. Okay, so that's the first way. Just text me, let me know, hey, Jerry, want an appointment, and then as soon as we wrap up here today, I am going to call you. Now, I like to call everyone who attends my workshop. I try to. But as you all know, some of you have been to my workshop several times. I have a lot of people that attend my workshop. We can have up to 100 attendees in these workshops sometimes. So for me, I would prefer that you schedule your own consultation by going to the blackwealth.as.me appointment link. What that does is it opens up my calendar so you don't have to guess. You don't have to try to figure out, oh, is Wednesday available or is Thursday available? All you got to do is go to that link, blackwealth.as.me, okay? And essentially you click it. Once you click the link, it might allow you to click it on the screen now. I don't know, depending on how you're viewing this. If you click this link, you go to this, or you type it in, It's going to pull up my calendar, and you'll see all of the days and times. Now, once you click on that, it's going to ask you some questions. It's going to ask you your name. It's going to ask you your email. My system will automatically remind you of your appointment. So blackwealth.as.me is better because you see my real-time availability. If you text me, then it's a possibility that somebody may already have booked the time that you want. So I do recommend that you go and schedule your own appointment. But again, you prefer to just text me, that's totally fine. You can also let me know in the chat box as well. Hey, Jerry, I want an appointment. I want a consultation. And again, myself or someone on my team, my assistant, Evan, and I have another advisor that will be working with us. We're going to be basically helping everyone get these accounts set up. So again, you can go to the link, you can type appointment, and then someone on my team or myself will reach out to you, okay, today. It might be tomorrow, depends on how many people we have to get through, but either today or tomorrow, you'll get a phone call from me. Now, if I call you and you do not answer the phone after you requested the consultation, I will text you. So we always text you because I understand if you're anything like me, you do not answer unknown phone calls, and I don't blame you. I get it. Okay, but what we always like to do because of that fact is I will call you. It's going to be this number on the screen. I'm in Atlanta. My number is an Atlanta number because my office is in Atlanta. If we call you, we don't get you, we will text you. And then you can just respond, hey, Jerry, this day or this time is best, and then we will add you to the calendar. You can also visit my website. Some of you maybe want to talk over things with your significant other. If you're not the sole financial decision maker, maybe you want to take some time and research my company, my website. My company website is blackwealthcompany.com. You go to the website. On that website, you're going to have some other resources as well. You'll see my Better Business Bureau accreditation. My company is Better Business Bureau accredited, A+ rated, with 0 customer complaints. I pride myself in that. That does speak to the level of care and focus that I and my team provide to my clients. We maintain that A+ rating because of the quality of service that we deliver to our clients, okay? So if you want to go there, blackwealthcompany.com. We also have some client testimonials on my website, clients that I've worked with over the last 10 to 12 years. They are on my website. They tell you about their experiences. Some of you may have already seen some of the videos that I've made where my clients have agreed to record their testimonials about how we've been able to help them use insurance to do the things that I'm teaching today. They've been in their 50s and 60s, and they're like, oh, my goodness, what Jerry taught me, what I learned from Jerry has changed my life, has changed the trajectory of my financial future. And that is all on my website. So if you want to visit my website, blackwealthcompany.com, there's also, I believe, a couple of links on there that will allow you to schedule your appointment as well. So you can schedule by going to my main website, but I do recommend visiting blackwealth.as.me because that is a more direct method of scheduling your appointment. Again, I don't want you to have a certain day or time that you need your appointment, but you not be able to do that day or time because you were waiting instead of just going to the link. So again, blackwealthcompany.com. Now, what I also do as a courtesy, because of I know a lot of you may be driving. This, it's Saturday. This is your errand running day. I understand that. This is your relaxation day for some of you. You may not be in a position where you can go to the website right now. You might be out and about. So what I usually like to do is after we wrap up is I'll just call you and just thank you for attending. And in that phone call you receive from me, I give you the opportunity to schedule your appointment. So even if you don't go to the link, either one of the links, if you don't indicate it in the chat box that you want an appointment, or if you don't text me, I will still, and it's either myself or somebody on my, I've been doing most of these phone calls because I think it's important that if you hire me to be your financial advisor, that you have, our relationship starts with the first phone call. That is where our relationship starts, with that first phone call I make. And I'm very hands-on with my clients. I'm not big on passing my clients off to other people. I do have an assistant. I do have other advisors. But the main thing for me is for you to know that there is a real person that you're going to be working with that's going to be helping coach you through these decisions. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to come up in your life that you're going to need somebody to bounce some things off of. You're going to be selling houses. You're going to be buying business. You're going to be selling business. You're going to be doing this and that and this and that. You need to know, you need to have somebody that you can talk to about all of these financial decisions. And as Black folks, we don't tend to seek out financial advisors, right? We don't tend to do that. We don't tend to develop those relationships with people who are financial planners. Now we can go to the beauty salon, or we go to the barber shop. We do those things. We keep the same barber we had the same barber for the last 20 years. We never changed that person, right? We never changed, our cosmetologist. Well, you need a financial planner as well. You need one person that you can work with over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, because guess what? Here's the benefit to using me and working with me versus working with someone else. My focus is only on our community, period. Now, I don't discriminate. I don't really care if my client is white, black, purple, green, or orange, but guess what? My client cares what color I am. My client cares about how invested I am in their success, but also in the success of their community, of people who look like them, talk like them, feel like them, have the same experiences as them. And working with an individual like myself, I'm invested in making sure that our community goes to the highest of heights. That is my legacy. My legacy is that of education. It's giving you, even if you don't become my client, that's okay. I hope all of you become my client. But I also am smart enough to realize and have enough experience to realize everybody is not a good fit for me. Everybody's not a good fit for me. And I'm not a good fit for everybody else either, and that's okay too. But the ones for whom I am a good fit, I want to help you go to the highest heights you've ever been before. I want to help you invest and grow your money. I want to make sure that you are financially prepared for the next 15 or 20 years. And guess what? Because I am younger, I am 37 years old. I'm not 57 or 67. Jerry, what does that have to do with anything? This is what it has to do with. When you're working with a financial planner that is younger, I can grow with your family. Now, I'm your financial planner. Guess what? Now I can be your son's financial planner, because some of you have sons and daughters that are my age. That is how white families tend to do it. They will have this financial planner person that they've been working with all of their life. Maybe when they got their first job, they had their financial person that they worked with right out of college. They got married, they had some kids, and as they were going through life, they were saving, they were investing, they were doing their few buckets. They were able to have this individual. They have this individual that they can call up when it's time for them to make their health insurance selections at open enrollment, when it's time for them to decide on their Medicare or their Social Security or different things that happen with when somebody passes away. What should we do with this life insurance money? Think about, I just had a car accident, I got a big, what do I need to do with this money to help me with my finances? Think about all of those little things that happen, all of those things that come up and will come up over the next 20 years. So this is not just life insurance. This is about building a lifelong relationship with you that is going to be a generational wealth perpetuating relationship. It's the continuity of the relationship that helps you build generational wealth. If the relationship that has helped you close your retirement gap, that has helped you build wealth, is lost when you pass away, how is that going to help your son or your daughter when they're in their 50s and now it's time for them to make some of those same decisions that you're making right now? That is the benefit of working with a financial advisor that is younger, is that I am able to work with you, but then when you make your transition, guess what? You're leaving money, you're leaving homes, you're leaving accounts, you're leaving policies. All of those things are going to be left, and guess what? Now your son, your daughter, whoever, they got to be filled in on what exactly it is you have. And hopefully they are going to be attending this workshop with you, or you're going to be sharing the recording with them so that when they reach your age, they don't say what you're saying probably, which is, I wish I would have known this information. Or guess what? They can know it right now. Plug your child into this. Plug your grandbaby into this right now when they're 25, right now. Because this stuff that I've taught you today, they don't teach you in college. Unfortunately, people have to learn through the school of hard knocks. And the school of hard knocks is time consuming. You eat up a lot of time learning on the go. Whereas if you just were to sit down and get the information and all of it is just bundled together for you, and you have someone that can walk you through that process, it saves you a lot of time in trying to figure stuff out, trying to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The financial plan is only safety, growth, and income. That's it. You don't have to reinvent it. That's it. I don't care what age you are. Everybody has safety, growth, and income. It just depends on where you are in your planning phase as to how aggressive you are and obviously when you're going to be investing those monies in those respective buckets. But again, all of this stuff that I've given you today, this is not stuff you learn through, but guess what? These things are extremely important. So again, you can text me and call me, let me know you're interested in a consultation. I will be reaching out to you all. Again, even if you don't request a consultation, I will tend to call you. I'll call you and or text you. And generally, again, just to give you the opportunity to schedule an appointment or to ask me some minor questions. You might have a question or two before you schedule that you need clarified. That's totally fine. But the most important thing is getting on my calendar. The consultation is free. Now, I say this to people all the time. My consultation is free. But if you cash out me, I ain't going to turn it down. I'm just joking. I'm serious, though. Look, my consultations are free. But if you cash out me, I ain't going to turn it down. I'm just saying, I ain't going to turn it down now you cash me. I'm just saying. But all of that being said, again, these are the ways you can schedule your consultation. What I'm going to do now is take some of your questions. All right. So we have, all right, Miss Beverly. Okay, we got a question about, okay, here we go. Will you provide a copy of, I'm going to get to your questions now. So you all can start asking your questions. All right. So Miss Beverly asks, will you provide a copy of PowerPoint? Unfortunately, we do not provide a copy of the PowerPoint, Miss Beverly, but we will send out the recording at the end of today's presentation. Okay, so if you maybe came in later in the presentation, there's some areas maybe you missed. What we do is I tend to try to send the presentation out later. Sometimes I usually get it sent out about 7 o'clock. Typically around about 7 o'clock is when I send it out, 7 o'clock Eastern time. So if you can wait about today we're finishing up a little bit early, but if you wait about 6 or 7 o'clock today, myself or someone on my team will email the recording, and you can watch that recording as many times as you want. You can share that recording. If you have someone in your family that you think will need this information, which I'm sure you do, you can share the link with them, okay? You can actually save the link. You can forward it to some friends, whatever you want to do. But again, I will send you the recording, Miss Beverly, and then you can just share that recording. You can rewind, fast forward, all that kind of stuff, and to get to the point that you need to get to. Okay. All right. Mike asked. He asked. Okay. Hi, Mike. Thanks for joining. I am 61 and have been denied for a policy for my health. Is it possible to get a policy somewhere? We just spoke to that. Mike, yes, you can. What we would want to do is use another individual as the insured. Okay. So if you're have some health situation, I always say again, don't tell yourself that you cannot do something just because of what happened before, right? Every situation is different. Just because you got declined before, Mike, does not mean that you will be declined again. That's number one. Number two, Mike, I have a lot of pull with insurance companies because of the number of clients that I have. Okay, I have a lot of clients. I get a lot of new clients each month, and I am known for the number of these policies with savings accounts that I set up. So when they see me submit a client to them, what they will do is they already will give my client preferential treatment. So in some cases, I remember one case, I had a client that was declined, and I was able to get that decline reversed. So some of this, it is, based on your health, but it's also based on the advisor that you're working with. It's about who you know as well. If you're working with an advisor that's not very experienced, right, they just starting their business or whatever, then they're not going to have as much pull as somebody like me who's been doing this for over 10 years. I've been doing this for 10 years with my own business. I was doing it 5 years before I even started my business. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been doing this since I was 22 years old. So I've been doing this. I got a track record. My company's been around since 2000. So what I'm saying is all of that goes into the decision-making process for who you're going to work with, because that could make the difference between you being approved or being declined. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, let's say you do get declined, Mike, we can always use another person as the insured. Use your son, use your daughter, because guess what? We want to use that savings account for our three buckets, our safety, growth, and income. That's what we want that savings for, safety, growth, and income. So if the savings is really the primary focus of the policy, then we can use whoever we need to use to get it approved, as long as we are the owners on that policy. Okay, so we can structure it depending on the situation. If we have, again, you can't get approved, whatever, we can use someone else and we can get it set up that way. Okay, Mike, if you don't request, I'm gonna reach out to you, brother, after we wrap up today, to give you the opportunity to get some schedule. You need to be looking at opportunities to get you a policy in place and not stop the forward movement process just because you've been declined, because you'll be surprised at what we can put in place, okay, based on your situation. Okay, so Mike, I will be reaching out. Y'all shoot your text, or have somebody on my team do that, and he'll try to get you on the calendar. Okay, and again, I say to everybody, I will try to call you all today. If I don't get you today, you will be getting called tomorrow, but I will be reaching out to you if you don't schedule me to get you on the calendar. Okay. All right, Miss Beverly, I have my contact information on the screen. I'll just make sure that everybody can see that. My contact information is right there. 404-910-2788 is my direct cell number. That is the same number that you will have when you become a client. You also, again, you can visit my website if you want to learn more about my company. Some of you may not know much about my company, so if you want to visit my website, I have, again, a ton of information, client testimonials. We have a stock market program. I'm also going to be adding a financial management course. That course is going to be specifically for those who do not know anything about money management. We're going to be talking about everything from credit to debt elimination to investing, home ownership, all of those things that we don't learn about in school, but that we need to know about in order to be better stewards over our money. So on my website, you'll see some of the courses. That course will be added sometime next year. But in the meantime, again, what we'll be doing is setting up these policies, getting you off to the races. Okay. All right. So we've got some more questions here. So Miss Beverly, I will reach out to you after the presentation. Also, if there's someone who is requesting a consultation and you did not input your contact information on the, like some of you went into the registration, but you didn't put in your phone number, you put in a bad phone number. Make sure you type your phone number in this chat box so that we can have a way of contacting you after the presentation. Otherwise, we'll email you, and you know how sometimes email can get lost. So we want to make sure we have all of your contacts. So if you didn't already provide your phone number when you registered today, make sure you provide that so that we can reach out to you after the presentation. So Miss Beverly, I will call you after we wrap up and we'll get you scheduled. Okay. All right, Miss Deborah, thank you for joining. Can I get this recording? I need to share with my partner and family. Believe in what you're saying. Absolutely, Miss Deborah. What I'll do, as I said, I'll be emailing the recording here. I'll try to get it out earlier today since we're finishing a bit earlier than usual, but I'll send that out, Miss Deborah, and then you can share that recording. We'll send it to the email address that you provided when you registered for today's presentation. Okay, so we will be sending that recording out. I said again, between 6 and 7 o'clock is when we usually get that sent out. Okay. All right. Miss Beverly Baxter says, no question. Thank you very much for the information. Do you provide personal coaching for agents? Okay. So if you are an advisor, financial advisor or agent, and you are interested in working with my team in the near future, we will be having a webinar in February that is going to be geared towards financial planners. You all will be amazed at the number of accountants and attorneys, people who are already quote unquote financial advisors, who actually want to be my clients because they learn so much in the time that they spend on my workshop. They're like, oh my goodness, what have I been doing the last 20 years? I got people who have been they've been in insurance for 20 something years, 30 years. I got people who are accountants and they're attorneys, and they know all of these things. They know all of the book stuff, but in terms of applying that stuff to their own situation, they don't know how to do it. And that is where my company has been successful, is we are helping everybody no matter what level they're on. A lot of people do know about this. Some people don't. The people who do know may not know as much as they will learn from implementing it the way that I've taught it. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me, shoot me a text, let me know that's what you're interested in, Miss Beverly, and I'll make sure that someone on my team reaches out to you. And obviously, we'll add you to that list of advisors that we will be speaking with next year, and it'll be in February. Okay. All right. NACO asks, I'm in Canada, but would still love to work with you. John Hancock is in Canada under Manulife. We may be able to work with an insurer who is cross-border. Is this possible? Yes, it is a possibility. I believe that you schedule a consultation. Okay, I see your appointment on my calendar, NACO. So we will discuss that. If John Hancock is there, we'll have to check some of the licensing when we're starting to work with, in different countries and stuff. We have to be careful because sometimes certain products are not available in all countries. So we can discuss that in your consultation, NACO. But the short answer is we may possibly still be able to work with you even though you are in Canada. Okay. Janie Farrell asks, what is your fee for being my financial advisor? Okay, Janie, good question. I do not charge a fee. My fees are automatically paid when I set up your account by whatever financial institution we're working with. Okay, so you don't have to pay me a fee. Okay, you don't have to pay me a fee because when we set up your account, my fees are paid by the insurance company. So that way, all we're doing is focusing on making sure you have the best plan possible. We don't have to charge you anything because our fees are already going to be paid for by whatever financial institution we're using. So what we do, Janie, is the first phone call that you and I will have will be just a general phone call. We're not making any changes. We're not making any changes at all to your current situation. What we're doing in that first phone call is we're just getting your numbers. How much you have saved? Do you have a 401k? Do you have an IRA? How's your 3 to 6 months reserve? Do you have some money that you can put aside into one or more of these plans that can get us to that target number that we're trying to get to? And once we have that discussion, we'll have a second phone call, Janie, where I present your proposal or proposals if you're doing more than one to you. And then that way we can walk through it and you can make an informed decision about which policy is going to be the best setup for you to help you reach the retirement goal that you're trying to get to. Okay. So again, we have 2 phone calls. If we need to have a third phone call to kind of finalize everything, answer any final questions you have, that is totally fine. We do that. And then obviously after that last phone call, we will send you the app. You complete the app, get the account number set up, get the policy process started. And again, from there, we're off to the races. Okay. So we do have a few phone calls, no fee for me. Again, if you want to pay me a fee, I ain't going to turn it down. I ain't going to turn down no money, Janie. Now, you cash at me, I'm going to take it. But it's not required in order for you to work with me. All right, Teresa Stoker asks, can the policy be multiplied to grow faster? The answer to that question is yes, it can. You can grow your policy much more quickly by using what's called the max funding number. The max funding number is basically any number up to the cap that the IRS allows you to put into the policy. Even though we're overfunding, usually the IRS will still give you the opportunity to put even more in there than you're currently putting in. So if you're trying to be aggressive with your policy, maybe max funding is better, because that way, instead of it taking you 10 or 15 years, you can maybe do it in 5 to 7 years. You can cut your policy investment time in half. You can grow the money even more quickly and obviously get to the compounding interest more quickly, get to the income more quickly. All of that stuff happens more quickly as a result of you growing that policy more quickly. Okay? All right. Do we have any other questions, comments, or concerns before we wrap up today? So again, those of you who have requested consultations, those of you who have texted me, I will be in contact with you after we wrap up to get you scheduled for your consultation. Again, we will reach out to everyone. We usually, again, try to reach out the same day. So We'll reach out today. If we don't get to you today, we'll get to you tomorrow. Get your schedule for your consultation. If you've already scheduled your consultation, that is already on the calendar. So we'll just be reaching out to you at that scheduled time, at the time that you specified, to get everything set up. Okay. All right. If you schedule, we already got you on the calendar. If you are interested in scheduling, requested a date in the chat box. I will reach out to you as well and get your schedule for your consultation. Everybody else, we will just basically be reaching out to everyone as we can get everybody's schedule. Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions before we wrap up today? Any other questions, comments, or concerns before we wrap up today? Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. So I'd just like to give everybody a shout out for attending. Thank you, Ms. Barbara Richards, Beverly Newborn, Clifton Williams, Deborah Smith, Fonda Washington, Harold Lewis, Jabbar Fowler, Janie Farrell, I'll be giving you a call, Jerry and Kia Tucker, thank you too for joining. Melissa, thank you for joining. Michael Yarbrough, thank you, brother, for joining. Nako, I will be giving you a call as well. Natasha Padmore, thank you as well. Teresa Stoker, thank you as well. So those are we got a great deal of people that joined us today. A lot of people have logged off already, and that's okay. But the main thing is that we want to make sure that you know I'm here to help you implement this thing, make this thing work for you, and position you for a better financial future. All right, it looks like we're done with all the questions. I would like to thank everyone again for attending this workshop. We appreciate your dedication to financial knowledge. I will continue to do these workshops weekly, with the exception of the days and times I am out of the country. I do travel to Nigeria several times a year. When I do travel there, I don't do workshops there. So with the exception of the times that I'm out of the country in Nigeria, or the times when we have a holiday weekend, something like that, you will see this workshop every single Saturday, okay? Same exact time, same exact information. We will tend to change up some of the information from time to time as new changes happen with policies, with tax laws, things of that sort, but the structure of the presentation will remain the same, and we'll make sure, again, that we continue to do these workshops until we run out of people to talk to, which we aren't, because, you know, as Black people in this country, a lot of this information has been withheld from us, or we haven't been in a position where we can receive this information and apply this information until now. And so what I'm going to do is help facilitate your personal growth and help position you again to have a better financial future. All right. Thank you all very, very much for attending today's workshop. We're going to wrap up. Have a blessed and awesome Saturday. Those of you who have requested your consultation, will be reaching out to you after today's presentation to get you scheduled. Those of you who have already scheduled your consultation, we will just talk to you at the day and time that you specify. And to everyone else who has been on this presentation, stayed on to the end, myself or someone on my team, I will probably be the one to call you here today and essentially give you the opportunity to schedule. If you have a few questions or whatever you need to have, addressed before you schedule, we can do that when I give you a call here today or tomorrow. Okay, everybody, thank you so much again. Look out for the recording. I'll be emailing the recording to you all. Again, we'll get it emailed out between 6 and 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be blessed, everybody. Have a fantastic Saturday. Bye-bye.